Chapter 4261. With the performance of the infant ginseng just now for a master of the gold core stage, even a master of the peak of the gold core stage, it would be difficult to kill it, right? Is the strength of the infant ginseng already comparable to a master of the nascent soul stage? Huang Xiaotao blinked her eyes. After all, like her and Lin Yi, two masters of the early stage of the gold core stage together, could be comparable to the existence of a master of the nascent soul stage. In the whole world there was probably only one master of the gold core stage. It was impossible for other masters of the gold core stage to have such a heaven-defying method. Comparable to the nascent soul stage? That shouldn't be the case. I guess it is only at the peak of the gold core stage. Lin Yi thought about it and said, if the infant ginseng was comparable to a master of the nascent soul stage, he and Huang Xiaotao's frenzied fire 8 trigrams palm strike could at most severely injure it, and it would be impossible to kill it so easily. But even so, this was already very exaggerated. It should be known that many people who would try their best to find the infant ginseng were masters of the gold core stage. In order to prepare to condense the nascent soul, they still needed a golden pill of gathering nascent soul. The strength of the peak of the gold core stage, coupled with the mist that isolated divine sense, was enough to make them suffer a lot. As the two were talking, Lin Yi suddenly realized that the mist around him was dispersing faster and faster after he got the baby ginseng. At this rate, it wouldn't take more than half an incense stick of time for it to completely disappear. Not good. It's not good to stay here for a long time. If we stay for a long time we may attract trouble. We have to leave quickly. Lin Yi suddenly became vigilant and made a prompt decision. He quickly put the infant ginseng into the jade pendant, and at the same time he took Huang Xiaotao's hand and prepared to leave. Now they could confirm one thing: the mist was the baby ginseng's protective umbrella. Now that the baby ginseng was dead, the mist dissipated automatically. This wasn't a good thing for the two who had obtained the treasure. From a certain perspective, the mist could protect the baby ginseng, and at the same time, it could protect the two of them. Now the mist had dissipated. Moreover, the medicinal fragrance of the nascent ginseng was so heavy that if any cultivators were to pass by, they would likely be attracted over. If they looked over, they would be able to see what was going on with a single glance. An ordinary man's wealth would become his own ruin. Yes. Huang Xiaotao nodded repeatedly, not daring to be negligent. She had been doing trial missions for so many years, so she was very clear about these things. She immediately followed Lin Yi and left. However, before the two of them could take more than a few steps, they saw something behind them. Suddenly, a bone-chilling strange laughter rang out, and all the carrion-eating crows within a radius of several dozen kilometers instantly scattered in fright. It was truly hair-raising. Lin Yi was instantly shocked, and he hurriedly protected Huang Xiaotao behind him while he couldn't help but feel regretful in his heart. Earlier he'd unexpectedly obtained the nascent ginseng, and he'd become slightly complacent in the end. He would have left long ago after taking the things. Why would he stay with Huang Xiaotao in this troublesome place? However, other than being overly excited, the fog had not completely dissipated. If it were someone else, they probably wouldn't be in such a hurry to leave. Lin Yi's reaction could only be considered normal. At most, he was a little careless. It was accompanied by a creepy laughter. A figure suddenly descended from the sky. Lin Yi followed the voice and looked up. He could not help but feel a chill in his heart. This person had actually descended from the sky from a height of several dozen zhang. The gray clothes on his body seemed to be specially made. As he stretched out his limbs, they looked like bat wings. He could glide in the air, and he could also change his direction flexibly to quickly shuttle through the dense forest. Ah! Seeing this, Huang Xiaotao cried out in alarm. At first glance, this person looked like a huge gray-skinned bat. She had just seen the nascent ginseng that had transformed into a small golden person. She had thought that this person wasn't a human, but a spirit beast that had transformed into a human form. Lin Yi was also secretly shocked. Of course, what shocked him wasn't whether this person was a human or a beast, but that the other party had actually swooped down from a height of several dozen zhang. Could it be that he wasn't afraid of the layer of miasma above his head? After all, the height of the miasma was only a few dozen zhang. Lin Yi was sure that this person was definitely a human. However, it didn't make sense for a human cultivator to be able to ignore the miasma. Even if he wasn't afraid of being poisoned, the effect of the miasma on one's senses was no less than that of the fog. To be able to clearly sense Lin Yi and Huang Xiaotao in the miasma, how terrifying was this person's strength? Before they could react, the gray-clothed person whistled and landed not far away from the two of them. Only then did the two of them see his appearance clearly. It was a middle-aged man with a naturally sinister face. This person's most prominent characteristic was his tall hooked nose. His pair of small but focused eyes were accompanied by a sinister smile. He was obviously a human cultivator, but standing in front of them he gave off a dangerous aura like that of a wild beast. It unconsciously caused their hair to stand on end and their hearts to tremble. Lin Yi's heart immediately sank. It wasn't because of this person's appearance, but because he couldn't see through his opponent's strength. This meant that this person was at least of the original infant stage. With a great enemy in front of them, it was impossible to escape at this time. Ignoring the fact that this person was strong, it could be seen from the way he appeared that this person was a speed type. It was impossible for Lin Yi to escape with Huang Xiaotao. Moreover, even if they could escape with such a close distance, Lin Yi wouldn't dare to leave his back to an original infant stage cultivator. Not only was this extremely unwise, it was also a taboo in Jianghu. It was no different from courting death. Haha, it really is the aura of the infant ginseng. This trip wasn't in vain after all. The gray-clothed man sniffed the air and a pair of gloomy eyes fell on Lin Yi and Huang Xiaotao. He grinned and said, "It seems that the infant ginseng is in your hands. Hehe, you let these ants die first and then you reap the benefits. You guys sure are scheming. Who are you?" Hearing this, Lin Yi's heart sank even more. Since the opponent was able to say this, it meant that he had already noticed them. It was just that the opponent's strength was far stronger than theirs. Therefore Lin Yi and Chu Bubi didn't notice him at all. Thinking about this, Lin Yi couldn't help but feel scared. At the same time, he roughly understood the reason why this person waited until now to make a move. Aside from wanting to reap the benefits, the other reason should be because of the fog. It was obvious that the fog that was used to hide the infant ginseng was something the gray-clothed man couldn't see through. Otherwise, he would have taken the infant ginseng before the fog dissipated. He wouldn't have waited until now to ask for it. Chapter 4262. When Lin Yi and Huang Xiaotao retreated, he was also forced to retreat. Just from the surface, it seemed like they were evenly matched. Two golden core stage ants were able to unleash such a powerful martial skill when they joined hands. It was comparable to the full power of a golden core stage master. Although the man in gray had the strength of a nascent soul stage master, he was too careless and underestimated his opponent. That was why he was in such a sorry state. He was forced into a tie by two golden core stage juniors. Even if it was only one move, it was still embarrassing enough. The man in gray's face immediately turned gloomy. The blood in his body surged. Only now did he realize that he was caught off guard and had suffered a small injury. He was really in a sorry state. You have some skills. Two mere golden core stage beginners were able to withstand my two palms. You two should be proud. The man in gray didn't attack again. Instead, he stood 100 feet away and sneered, "It's a pity that the both of you can only stop here. A gold core stage expert who can survive after receiving my origin-shattering palm has never appeared in this world. Although the both of you are worthy of praise, it's a pity that you still can't escape death." Ah. You're so confident? Lin Yi was still sitting on the ground. His and Huang Xiaotao's faces didn't look good. However, after hearing the man in gray's words, he still raised his eyebrows and asked calmly, "Confident? What kind of confidence is this? It's just common sense. I can't deny that the power of your joint palm technique is indeed praiseworthy. But it's a pity that it's still very shallow. It's just a low-level palm technique that can only strike randomly." The man in gray sneered confidently. "Even if you can withstand my shattering energy palm on the surface, how can trash like you resist the damage to the primordial spirit? Your primordial spirit has obviously suffered heavy injuries, but you still insist on acting in front of me. I want to see how long you can last." Ah. Primordial spirit has suffered heavy injuries? Lin Yi couldn't help but laugh. He looked at the man in gray like he was looking at an idiot. There should be a limit to deceiving others and yourself, right? Which eye of yours can see that? Our primordial spirits are heavily injured? Without waiting for the other party to reply, Lin Yi and Huang Xiaotao had already stood up hand in hand. Both of them had relaxed expressions. Not to mention injuries to their primordial spirits, they didn't even seem to have suffered any ordinary physical injuries. It was as if they were completely fine. How is this possible? The man in gray was dumbfounded and couldn't even speak properly. He had absolute confidence in his essence-shattering palm. Even if he was careless and did not use his full strength to attack, he could at least injure his opponent's essence spirit. How could he be completely fine? Was there something wrong with his eyes? Unbeknownst to him, ordinary Aura's core stage experts were indeed unable to deal with his aura-shattering palm. Lin Yi and Huang Xiaotao were also unable to deal with it. Unfortunately, Lin Yi still had an invisible helper called the ghost thing. In terms of controlling one's primordial spirit, if that thing claimed to be number 2 in the world, no one would dare to claim to be number 1 in the world. This was a true grandmaster, even if the other party was an original infant stage expert. In this aspect, how could he be compared to the ghost thing? The little bit of divine sense attack that the man in gray had mixed in with the aura-shattering palm was silently dissolved by the ghost thing. Its method was brilliant and mysterious. He couldn't detect it at all. The truth is right in front of you. Do you still think it's impossible? Lin Yi couldn't help but laugh. He gave Huang Xiaotao a look and didn't immediately make a move. He said indifferently, "Do you really think that just because the two of us have ordinary strength, you can really defeat us? Aren't you a little too confident?" Lin Yi's calm performance caused the man in gray to immediately panic. The gray-clothed man, who was already bewildered, immediately panicked. His gaze towards Lin Yi and the girl finally changed from the arrogance and disdain he had before to a much more serious one. He could see that Lin Yi and Huang Xiaotao really didn't have any injuries at this moment. After being hit by the aura-shattering palm, not only did their primordial spirits suffer heavy damage, they didn't even have the most basic physical injuries. In contrast, he himself had suffered some minor injuries. Looking at it this way, although the strength of the two people in front of him was low, when they worked together, their combat strength and defense were not the slightest bit inferior to his. It could be said that they were on par with each other. There must be a reason for this abnormality. The man in gray's heart suddenly quivered. He felt that today's matter wouldn't be as easy and pleasant as he had imagined. Constantly paying attention to the changes in the expression of the man in gray, Lin Yi secretly let out a sigh of relief. From the beginning, the opponent had acted high and mighty and looked down on the two of them. But now, after one move, he was frightened by the appearance and thought too highly of the two of them. In fact, although the ghostly thing had erased the divine sense attack for Lin Yi and Huang Xiaotao, the lethality of the opponent's aura-shattering palm still couldn't be underestimated. Actually, Lin Yi and Huang Xiaotao had both suffered serious injuries. Otherwise, they wouldn't have been in such a sorry state and been beaten to the ground. However, Lin Yi could heal himself quickly, and he was holding hands with Huang Xiaotao. In the time it took to say a few words, even Huang Xiaotao's injuries were healed. That was why he could appear so calm. However, the man in gray did not know this. In his eyes, he only knew that Lin Yi and Huang Xiaotao were facing the aura-shattering palm that he was most proud of. Whether it was their bodies or their primordial spirits, they were both unharmed. The meaning behind this was really chilling. "Alright, I'm not an unreasonable person. Since you've already proven your strength, then I admit that you have the qualifications to talk to me," the man in gray said in a deep voice. "What do you mean?" Lin Yi and Huang Xiaotao were slightly startled. With this sentence, the pressure that the man in gray gave them instantly disappeared. Seeing that the two of them weren't soft persimmons that he could easily bully, he was prepared to negotiate? This guy's skin was really thick. The truth was so. To be able to reach the original infant stage, the man in gray's experience and battle experience was definitely incomparably rich. Even if he couldn't see through Lin Yi and Huang Xiaotao's trump card, he at least knew that these two people were definitely not as easy to deal with as he had imagined. If he continued to forcefully fight, although he believed that he had a higher chance of winning as an original infant stage expert, he would have to spend a lot of effort to deal with these two people just now. It was very likely that both of them would be injured. That wouldn't be worth it. What he was most afraid of was provoking a third party during the fight. If that happened, he wouldn't be able to get anything. It's very simple. According to the rules of the wilderness, whoever sees it gets half. As long as you hand over half of the nascent ginseng, I will let the two of you go. Well, water does not interfere with river water, the man in gray said with certainty. Chapter 4263. Half of the witnesses? That's a little too much. Lin Yi didn't directly refuse, but he didn't directly agree either. Instead, he revealed an awkward expression and frowned as if he was hesitating. Huang Xiaotao, who was at the side, didn't have any intention of speaking. Everything was decided by Lin Yi. She didn't participate in the decision-making and only listened to Lin Yi's instructions. Hearing Lin Yi's awkward tone, the man in gray didn't get angry. Instead, he was secretly happy. Listening to Lin Yi's words, there was a way. It was common knowledge that the higher a person's level was, the more they cherished their life. They wouldn't easily fight with others. This was human nature. If he was facing an original infant stage master, the man in gray might not hesitate to fight with his life. However, facing two golden core stage masters, it was like a billionaire wanting to die with a beggar on the side of the road. No matter how he thought about it, it was a big loss. Therefore, the man in gray wasn't afraid that Lin Yi would bargain with him. He was afraid that Lin Yi would be stubborn and fight with his life. In the end, both sides would suffer. This was definitely not a good thing for the man in gray. As long as you get half, you can go your own way and I will go my own way. As long as you get half of it from now on, you can go your own way and I'll go mine. I won't touch a single hair on your body. But if you don't give me half of it, then we'll have to fight to the death. Even if you have some skills, you're still only in the gold core stage. Just now, I was careless and held back, which allowed you to retreat. If we really fight, what do you think your chances of winning are? This? Lin Yi suddenly fell into hesitation. However, before the man in gray could secretly rejoice, he immediately said forcefully, "How many chances of winning are there? If we don't fight, how will we know?" Fuck, what a stupid kid. Hearing this, the man in gray was furious. He couldn't wait to kill this kid who didn't know what was good for him. Let me give you a piece of advice. You better think carefully before you speak. I see you as the number one person. That's why I'm giving you a chance to discuss. The gray-clothed man really didn't want to fight to the death with Lin Yi and Lu Sheng, so he could only continue to be patient. He said earnestly, "My patience is very limited. If you're just blindly pretending to be unreasonable, it's hard to say if the two of you can walk out of here alive if we really fight. The pros and cons are so obvious. You can't possibly be unable to see clearly, can you? But, the two of us went through untold hardships to obtain the nascent ginseng, and you want half of it the moment you arrive. Are you kidding me?" Lin Yi pursed his lips and pretended to be tough, but there was clearly some unconcealable wavering in his expression. If it was anyone else, they wouldn't be willing at this time. The gray-clothed man had already expected this and was secretly delighted. As long as this kid wasn't an idiot with a one-track mind, it wouldn't be a big problem. "So, you're saying that I'm asking for too much?" The gray-clothed man remained calm and collected. He frowned and said, "Of course you're still talking about splitting half. There are 3 people here and you're the one who came later. Why should I give you half but the two of us can only share the other half?" Lin Yi pretended to be hesitant as he spoke. So you're saying that it's my fault?" The gray-clothed man's expression didn't look too good. However, after seemingly struggling for a moment, he suddenly clenched his teeth and said, "Fine. Since it's like this, I'll take the initiative to take a step back. I don't need half, give me a third." On the surface he looked pained, but in fact it was just an act. At this moment, the gray-clothed man's heart was burning with greed. This was an entire nascent ginseng. Even if it was only a third, it was still a very big piece. A third? Lin Yi seemed to be somewhat moved, but he still hesitated and said, "But my teammates for this nascent ginseng lost 4 people. I'll just give you a third. Kid, let me tell you, a third is already my bottom line. Don't be ungrateful and take a mile when given an inch." The gray-clothed man's expression was gloomy. He originally thought that by taking a step back, the other party would definitely agree immediately. He didn't expect the other party to be so hesitant. He couldn't help but become angry again. Take a mile when given an inch? Your words are the opposite. It was obviously our team that sacrificed 4 lives to obtain this nascent ginseng. The moment you came up, you want to take a third. Who is the one taking a mile when given an inch? Lin Yi purposely scolded. Then what do you want? The gray-clothed man was instantly angered. He was an original infant stage expert. Facing 2 ants in the beginning stage of the Golden Dance stage, he had to lower his voice. That was fine. But now, not only did the other party not buy it, they even took advantage of him. This was really intolerable. Even if the uncle could tolerate it, the ant couldn't. "What do you want?" Lin Yi asked back. "Kid, I'm being so kind to discuss with you. Don't think that I'm afraid of you. If you really make me lose my patience, today will be the day you die." The gray-clothed man's body was filled with murderous intent again. However, he didn't attack immediately. Instead, he continued, "How about this? 1/4, no less. Or else I will kill you right now." "Okay." Lin Yi seemed to be obediently nodding his head. However, before the gray-clothed man could be happy, the next sentence made him dumbfounded. "Then I will kill you." Before his voice died away, Lin Yi and Huang Xiaotao attacked again. The two of them had a tacit understanding. When Lin Yi spoke just now, he didn't leave any hints behind. Huang Xiaotao was already prepared. The Raging Fire 8 trigrams palm strike was instantly launched. The gray-clothed man instantly turned pale. Just now, it was Lin Yi and Huang Xiaotao who initiated the attack. He didn't expect the scene to repeat itself. It was Lin Yi and Huang Xiaotao who initiated the attack again. It seemed that the two of them didn't even consider him, an original infant stage expert, to be a threat. Humph, since you want to die, then I will grant your wish. The gray-clothed man was so angry that he laughed. After all, he was an original infant stage expert. Even though Lin Yi and Huang Xiaotao's attack was so sudden, he was still able to react in time. Immediately he gathered all his qi and used the crushing yuan palm strike again. The gray-clothed man sneered. His body was filled with murderous intent. He didn't use all his strength in that attack just now, but this time he wanted to teach the two of them the true strength of an original infant stage expert. Bang! The four palms collided, creating another wave of qi. However, this time it was different from before. Before they were evenly matched, but this time the gray-clothed man didn't hold back. He gathered all his qi into his palms and sent Lin Yi and Huang Xiaotao flying. He himself didn't move an inch. It was obvious who was stronger. Did you see that? This is real. The gray-clothed man laughed proudly. However, before he could even finish the word power, the situation suddenly changed. The two of them were indeed sent flying by him. Unfortunately, before Lin Yi was sent flying, he suddenly threw something at him with his other hand. Chapter 4264. The gray-clothed man didn't think that Lin Yi would have another move. Even at this point he was caught off guard and got hit in the face by that thing. A super bomb that was a combination of pure energy and Dan fire. This was Lin Yi's true killer move. He had purposely stalled for time just so he could create this bomb. The man in gray didn't know what this thing was, but it emitted an extremely dangerous aura that made him tremble in fear. Sadly, in order to ensure that he could kill Lin Yi and Huang Xiaotao in one move, he gathered all the pure energy in his body into his palms. At this very moment, his face was completely unprotected. Boom! The super bomb directly exploded on the man in gray's face, causing the nearby forest to tremble. Not only was the entire graveyard of spiritual beasts alarmed, but even the spiritual beasts and cultivators within 100 miles were shocked by this sudden eruption of energy. They didn't dare to move for a long time. When this super bomb exploded, the entire graveyard of spiritual beasts shook. The man in gray, who couldn't dodge in time, was blasted black all over and his face was covered in blood. However, the vitality of an original level cultivator was truly terrifying. Even so, this guy didn't die. Instead, he screamed in pain from the explosion. Even Lin Yi himself was shocked by the scene. The super bomb was his final trump card, and if even this couldn't kill the man in gray, then he was in deep trouble. However, when he saw the condition of the man in gray, Lin Yi's worried heart finally calmed down. Though this person didn't die, it was obvious that he was severely injured. Most importantly, his eyes were blinded by the explosion. Even though cultivators of the original level were used to using their soul to sense things, most of the time, they still relied on their eyes. This was especially obvious at the moment when his eyes had just been blinded. Even if he knew that he could use his divine sense to replace his senses, he would still be subconsciously panic-stricken. He became truly blind. Let's go together. Don't give him a chance to breathe. Lin Yi gave Huang Xiaotao a meaningful glance and shouted at the same time. This was because both he and Huang Xiaotao had suffered serious injuries from the palm strike just now. Even with his ability, there was no way for him to recover in such a short period of time. However, there was no time to lose. This was the gray-clothed man's weakest moment. If he missed this opportunity, he would have to wait until he calmed down. In that case, all of his previous efforts would be in vain. With the opponent's strength as a nascent soul stage expert, once he recovered, even if he couldn't kill Lin Yi and Huang Xiaotao, if he wanted to escape, Lin Yi and Huang Xiaotao absolutely wouldn't be able to do anything to him. Sure enough, Lin Yi's deliberate stern shout caused the already panic-stricken and miserable gray-clothed man to be even more at a loss. This was a psychological attack. Facing this kind of enemy, not to mention Lin Yi, even Huang Xiaotao wouldn't be merciful. Her many years of experience in the trial missions had taught her that being merciful to one's enemy was equivalent to being cruel to oneself. He immediately cooperated with Lin Yi and attacked with all his strength. Boom! 2 frenzied fire 8 trigrams palm strike accurately hit the gray-clothed man's vital point. He was already seriously injured by the super bomb, and this attack made his situation even worse. After screaming and struggling for a moment, he finally couldn't move anymore. He's dead. Lin Yi checked the gray-clothed man's qi. After confirming it, he finally let out a long breath. He nodded lightly at Huang Xiaotao. Huang Xiaotao's legs softened and she almost fell to the ground. From the moment the gray-clothed man suddenly appeared until now, her nerves had been stretched taut. Facing a nascent soul stage enemy at such a close distance, That kind of terrifying pressure that almost materialized was really not something an ordinary person could withstand. This was also because most of the opponent's attention was on Lin Yi. More than 70% of the pressure was blocked by Lin Yi. Otherwise, if Huang Xiaotao was alone, she really couldn't guarantee that she wouldn't have the courage to make a move. If it was any other expert in the early gold core stage, they would probably have already been scared to the ground. After confirming that the gray-clothed man was dead, Lin Yi conveniently searched his body. Killing people and robbing their treasures was common sense in the cultivation world. Although the original intention was not like this, since he had already killed the person, Lin Yi would not mind making a fortune from the dead person. This was a nascent soul stage expert. Anything that dropped from his body would definitely be a rare treasure. Maybe there was something good that Lin Yi and Huang Xiaotao could use. After searching the gray-clothed man's body for a moment, Lin Yi found an exquisitely designed secret pocket in the wide sleeve of his right hand. After pulling it out and looking at the thing inside, he was suddenly shocked. "What's wrong?" Huang Xiaotao asked nervously, thinking that something had happened. "Nothing much. I just suddenly realized that this guy is actually a good person," Lin Yi said with a strange expression. "He's a good person?" Huang Xiaotao was even more puzzled. She really thought that she had killed the wrong person. She couldn't help but panic and said, Then what should we do? Didn't we kill a good person by mistake?" "Not really. If we don't kill him, to us he is not a good person." Lin Yi smiled and then handed the bag to Huang Xiaotao. "Take a look." Huang Xiaotao was confused. She took the bag and looked inside. Suddenly her whole body was stunned. She cried out in disbelief, This is the universal golden Dan fruit?" The bag was not big and there were only a few heavenly treasures in it. Judging from the looks of it, the gray-clothed man had just come to Lufeng Forest to collect them. Anything that could catch his eye would naturally not be ordinary. Any one of the items in the bag was a good item that could not be bought in the market. Huang Xiaotao could not recognize the others for the time being, but she recognized two of the fruits at a glance. They were the universal golden Dan fruit that she and Lin Yi had obtained at Hutsai Tianwu Mountain. "Not bad. I was just about to doze off and he took the initiative to give me a pillow. Xiaotao, do you think this guy is a good person?" Lin Yi laughed and was in a good mood. Although the nascent ginseng was far more valuable than the universal golden Dan fruit, for Lin Yi and Huang Xiaotao, the nascent ginseng was not needed in a short period of time. What they needed the most now was the universal golden Dan fruit. This time, the reason why they agreed to come to Lufeng Forest with Guodangtao was because of the universal golden Dan fruit. However, because of the existence of Chu Bubi, they changed their mind at the last minute. Lin Yi didn't think that this trip to Lufeng Forest would end up like this. He'd just gotten the ginseng and now someone was giving him the Wanda golden Dan fruit. Luck was on his side and he couldn't stop it at all. Chapter 4265. Lin Yi couldn't help but exclaim. This was the will of the heavens. The man in gray was an original leveled cultivator, so the myriad crossing golden Dan fruit was useless to him aside from trading. Yet it was found in his pouch. If this wasn't the will of the heavens, then what was it? Of course, no matter how lucky one was, one must have the ability to do so. If someone else was in Lin Yi's position, they would have been killed by the man in gray a long time ago. That wasn't good luck, it was bad luck. Okay, let's hurry up and leave. This place is far too dangerous. Lin Yi placed the pouch inside his jade space and didn't dare to stay any longer. He didn't even care about his injuries and quickly left with Huang Xiaotao. He didn't really care. He just needed to hold Huang Xiaotao's hand and help her recover. Huang Xiaotao nodded. She knew that they couldn't stay here any longer and they had to leave as soon as possible. After such a big commotion, the man in gray was right in front of them. If they stayed any longer, who knew if another person would appear out of nowhere? This was the core area of Lufeng Forest. Other than Chu Bubi, who was an exception, those who could enter this place were all original leveled cultivators. This wasn't a joke. The two of them immediately fled, but they didn't dare to run around randomly. Instead, they followed the route that Chu Bubi had given them and retraced their steps. This was the only way to escape unscathed. Otherwise, if they were careless, they might run into the nest of a powerful spiritual beast. That would be a real joke. 2 hours later, Lin Yi and Huang Xiaotao were a few dozen miles away from the spiritual beast graveyard. They didn't encounter any accidents along the way, nor were there any people or spiritual beasts tailing them. The entire journey was peaceful. Okay, we should be fine now. Let's stop and rest. Let's heal our injuries before we leave. Lin Yi spoke. Huang Xiaotao was fine. While they were running, they were healing the remaining injuries in her body. However, he was still injured. Though it wasn't serious, it wasn't a good thing to drag it out for too long. He needed to heal himself as soon as possible. Yes. Huang Xiaotao nodded while gasping for breath. In such a dense forest, she had been running non-stop for 4 hours. She had been relying on the little bit of Zhen Qi in her body to support herself. If she did not quickly take a rest, she would definitely die. She couldn't hold on much longer. Lin Yi looked around and found a relatively clean big rock. He let Huang Xiaotao sit on it while he healed himself. After the time it took for half an incense stick to burn, the remaining injuries on his body had been completely swept away. Not only did his entire body feel relaxed, even his spirit, energy, and essence had become much better. Besides healing his injuries, Lin Yi had also transferred a large amount of true energy to Huang Xiaotao. This was an inevitable choice. Putting aside the intimate relationship between Lin Yi and Huang Xiaotao, Lin Yi had to ensure that Huang Xiaotao had sufficient combat strength at all times. After all, this was the Lufeng forest that was filled with danger. No matter what happened, it wouldn't be surprising. I'm fine now. Shall we continue? Huang Xiaotao asked as she stretched her arms and legs in high spirits. There's no need for that. Anyway, there shouldn't be any trouble now. It's rare for us to come to Lufeng Forest, and there's still a lot of time before the miasma returns. Let's just walk around here. If we're lucky, we might run into something good. Lin Yi shook his head. Along the way, he had carefully confirmed the time when the miasma would dissipate in Lufeng Forest from Guodeng Tao and the others. According to his previous experience, there was still at least half a month before the miasma returns. There was still plenty of time. Although the two most eye-catching treasures of Lufeng Forest, the infant ginseng and the golden dan fruit of 10,000 crossing, had been obtained one after another, ordinary people would be trembling with fear and would only think of running away at this time. However, Lin Yi had never been such a mediocre person. He wouldn't be greedy for treasures beyond his ability, no matter how good they were. However, he wouldn't easily let go of things within his ability. Yes, I'll listen to you. Huang Xiaotao nodded. If she was alone with the infant ginseng and the golden dan fruit of 10,000 crossing, she probably wouldn't dare to continue to stay here. However, now that she was following Lin Yi, there was no such worry at all. Then let's look around here. However, for safety's sake, we can't stray too far from this route map. Lin Yi referred to the so-called family map of Chu Bubi. In terms of location, this was still considered a relatively central place in Lufeng Forest. The only place that could be confirmed as safe was the route that they had walked before. Otherwise, if they walked around without any care, it wouldn't be called daring but courting death. Just as Lin Yi and Huang Xiaotao were ready to continue searching for treasures, there was suddenly an additional figure in the messy spiritual beast graveyard. It was a black-clothed man under a bamboo hat. It was actually picked by someone? Was I a step too late? The black-clothed man looked at the traces left by the fight in front of him. He observed the fog that should have been there but had dissipated. He also observed the frightening corpse of the man in gray. He couldn't help but be stunned and couldn't speak for a long time. This time he came all the way from the North Island just for the infant ginseng. However, he was a step too late and it was taken by someone else. How could he endure this? If it was someone else, it would be a pity to miss out on such an important treasure like the nascent ginseng. However, the problem was that he didn't come here to collect the nascent ginseng for his own use. It's over. It's over. It's over. The black-clothed man suddenly became anxious. He scratched his head and muttered to himself, "This is the key material for the research of gene medicine. Last time, the original infant ginseng failed to make the gene medicine. It's very likely that there's a problem with the gene imitation of the infant ginseng. I must find the real infant ginseng to find a way to remedy it. But now, when I go back, how do I explain it to Miss Luan?" Creating a nascent soul stage master was the most important project in the headquarters recently. If the whole project came to a standstill because of a bad start and dragged on for a long time, it might even be aborted halfway. This was a huge responsibility that no one could afford to bear. When he thought of this serious consequence, the black-clothed man suddenly felt a chill down his spine. He was so scared that he broke out in a cold sweat. The organization's cruel means of punishment was really not something that an ordinary person could bear. Damn it. If I find out who took the infant ginseng first, I will tear him into pieces. The black-clothed man gritted his teeth and shouted angrily. Chapter 4266. In an instant, his murderous aura that was almost tangible poured out. Some of the powerful spiritual beasts that were attracted earlier were so frightened that they ran away in embarrassment. They didn't dare to get close. The murderous aura was strong, but the black-clothed man was too late. The two of them had already walked for 4 hours and were tens of miles away. No matter how strong their detection methods were, they wouldn't be able to find them. The man in black was powerful, but unfortunately, he didn't even know who his target was. It was even more impossible for him to know where his target was. What could he do? With a heart full of unwillingness, the man in black stayed where he was for a while. In the end, he decided to go back first. Based on the information he received, there was only one place in Lufeng Forest that produced infant ginseng. Even if it appeared in other places, the chances were minuscule. If he were to search aimlessly, it would be like looking for a needle in a haystack. Plus, the infant ginseng had a unique rumor. It wasn't that there was only one infant ginseng in the world. It was that in the same area, there would only be one infant ginseng and there would never be a second one. Because the infant ginseng's growth conditions were very harsh. Not only did it require an abundant amount of spiritual energy, but it also required an abundant amount of yin energy. The only place that could satisfy these two conditions was the spiritual beast graveyard in the various primitive lands. Lufeng Forest only had one spiritual beast graveyard. At most, it could only produce one infant ginseng. Even if someone purposely cultivated a second infant ginseng, it wouldn't be able to survive. Therefore, to the man in black who was in a hurry to find the infant ginseng, instead of staying in Lufeng Forest and wasting time, it was better to hurry back. Maybe he would have a chance to find the infant ginseng in other primitive lands. However, the man in black was helpless. Just as he was about to leave, he inadvertently glanced at the corpse on the side. Suddenly his heart skipped a beat. He turned around and walked over. He lowered his head and carefully observed. The man in gray died in an extremely horrible way. His face was unrecognizable. There were injuries all over his body, especially his head. If one's nerves weren't thick enough, a normal person would have vomited just by looking at it. Why is this injury? After the man in black examined it for a while, he rubbed his chin thoughtfully. He didn't move for a long time. After a while, he seemed to have thought of something and disappeared into the dense forest. Xiaotao, let's stop here. If we go any further, we will be too far from the route Chu Bubi gave us. It might be dangerous. Lin Yi, who had been shuttling through the dense forest, suddenly stopped. Oh, then are we going back just like that? Huang Xiaotao nodded. He looked at Lin Yi and said, Go back? How can we just go back like this? Xiaotao, look around you. Aren't there top-notch spirit herbs everywhere? With this quality, it can be used to refine pills that are of the highest quality. Lin Yi smiled as he pointed around. Really? That's great. Huang Xiaotao was delighted. At that moment, there were indeed quite a number of spiritual herbs around the two of them. Since no one came to Lufeng Forest all year round and it was a relatively central place, spiritual herbs could be seen everywhere. That was a very normal thing. However, even though they were both natural treasures, compared to the rare nascent ginseng and the myriad crossing golden dan fruit, they were much weaker. The value of the spiritual herbs around them was much lower. Most of the spiritual herbs here could be bought in the market with spiritual jades. Of course, compared to those sold in the market, the quality of the spiritual herbs in front of them was obviously much better. However, Lin Yi was somewhat disappointed. With the support of a money-making machine like the Tiandan Pavilion, he did not lack spiritual jades at all. He could buy these spiritual herbs at any time. As for the quality, he had the space in the jade pendant. The quality of the spiritual herbs cultivated by the seeds of the spiritual herbs was not inferior to the spiritual herbs in front of him. But even so, Lin Yi still pulled Huang Xiaotao along with him and started pulling the herbs in front of them like a tornado. Oh, Lin Yi, it's not good to pull them out like this, right? Even though Huang Xiaotao had followed Lin Yi and was used to all kinds of magical things, she could not help but twitch her mouth when she saw this scene. Not good? What's not good about it? Anyway, they are all ownerless items. Everyone who sees them has a share. Even if we don't pick them, others might not come here. Lin Yi did not feel that there was anything wrong with it. That's not what I meant. I wanted to say. Huang Xiaotao looked at Lin Yi's swift and decisive methods and said weakly, Spiritual herbs don't seem to be picked like this. More than 60% of the trial missions that Huang Xiaotao had done in the past were to collect spiritual herbs. Therefore, she was quite experienced in the process of collecting spiritual herbs and could be considered half an expert. Spiritual herbs were existences that absorbed the essence of heaven and earth. The requirements for their growth were much harsher than ordinary plants. Correspondingly, their vitality was much weaker in comparison. Whether it was to collect them in the wild or cultivate them themselves, a considerable degree of professional knowledge was required. Even the most layman's method of collecting spiritual herbs had to be gentle during the process. After carefully cleaning the soil, they would be stored in a special spiritual jade box for preservation. This way, the vitality and freshness of the spiritual herbs could be guaranteed to the greatest extent. Lin Yi's actions, however, didn't look like he was being careful at all. He looked like he was pulling weeds out of the ground, and he didn't even prepare a special jade box. He was just pulling it out casually. Huang Xiaotao broke out in a cold sweat as she watched. She couldn't help but think, what a waste. Well, that's fine. Lin Yi shook his head indifferently, but his hands did not stop at all. Actually, many spiritual herbs will dry up after being pulled out of the soil for a long time. If you don't store them in a special spiritual jade box, it's useless no matter how much you pull them out. Huang Xiaotao reminded weakly. I know this. Xiaotao, don't worry. I have my ways. You just have to do as I say. Lin Yi suddenly smiled. Other people had to be careful when collecting spiritual herbs. However, he had the space in the jade pendant. He could easily pull out the spiritual herbs on the ground. As long as he put them into the space in the jade pendant, there would be no problem. There was naturally infinite spiritual energy in the jade pendant, which could allow these spiritual herbs to continue to grow. In the future, whenever he needed them, he could look for them in the space in the jade pendant. He could guarantee that the quality would only be better than when he collected them. This was an effect that others could not achieve no matter how well they prepared. Oh, okay then. Seeing that Lin Yi was so confident, Huang Xiaotao nodded obediently and did not continue to ask. She also copied Lin Yi and used this unprecedented rough style to pull weeds. Chapter 4267. The two of them plucked more than half of the surrounding area in the time it took for an incense stick to burn. Everywhere they passed, there was not an inch of grass left behind. This place could be said to be a natural spiritual herb garden. Spiritual herbs could be seen everywhere. Not only were there many types of spiritual herbs, but they were also of excellent quality. With so many spiritual herbs, other people would have to work for at least a few days to be able to collect all of them. However, with Lin Yi and Huang Xiaotao's terrifying efficiency, they would probably be able to finish plucking all the spiritual herbs in another incense stick's time. This was because they did not even look at the spiritual herbs and plucked them as soon as they saw them. They did not even need to take any protective measures. After Huang Xiaotao plucked them, the only thing Lin Yi had to do was to put the spiritual herbs away and plant them in the space of the jade pendant. Then all of them would be ready. As the two of them were busy, Lin Yi suddenly frowned slightly. There was a rustling sound in the dense forest in the distance. He could tell that it was the sound of footsteps approaching from afar. Judging from the sound, it should be people, and there's more than one. What should we do? Huang Xiaotao noticed Lin Yi's expression and quickly realized that she was not inferior to Lin Yi in terms of familiarity with the dense forest and perception in the forest. It's okay. Let's continue with our work. Don't worry about it. Lin Yi smiled faintly and had no intention of avoiding it. Although the spiritual herbs here were not rare, it was better than nothing. After all, the space in the jade pendant was huge. Moreover, Lin Yi had another deeper consideration. If he and Huang Xiaotao deliberately avoided it and were discovered by those people, they might think that they had obtained some great treasure. That was why they had a guilty conscience. Instead of getting into trouble, it was better to continue plucking the spiritual herbs naturally. After all, there were many cultivators who came to Lufeng Forest to explore. If there was no conflict of interest, the other party would not take the initiative to make things difficult for them. Of course, in order to conceal the existence of the jade pendant space, Lin Yi still took the basket beside him and placed all the spirit herbs he was going to collect into the basket. It was fine if Huang Xiaotao knew about the jade pendant space, but it would be bad if an outsider knew about it. The two of them continued to pull out the weeds. After a while, a group of people appeared in front of them. Lin Yi raised his head and looked at them. There were 4 men and 2 women, a total of 6 people. They should have teleported here together. From their demeanor and aura, it was easy to determine that the leader of the 6 should be the green-robed middle-aged man walking in the middle. Although this person's figure and appearance did not stand out from others at first glance, he was just ordinary, and his temperament was no different from Guodong Tao's from before. However, if one paid close attention, they would discover that this person was full of vigor. His slightly ordinary appearance actually had quite a bit of heroic spirit, especially this person's extremely sharp eyes like a sharp knife. A casual glance from him would unconsciously make one tremble with fear. More importantly, among the 6 people who came, only the green-robed middle-aged man's strength could not be seen through by Lin Yi's golden finger. In other words, this person's strength was at least at the nascent soul stage. As for the other 5 people, they were all masters of the golden core stage. The strongest was at the peak of the golden core stage, and the weakest was at the intermediate stage. Lin Yi's heart couldn't help but tremble. The strength of the team in front of him was more than a level stronger than his and Chu Bubi's team. They were simply not on the same level at all. But thinking about it carefully, only this kind of team would dare to enter the depths of Lufeng Forest. Otherwise, with Chu Bubi's team without the route map, it would be impossible to reach the core area. While the two of them were observing the newcomer had noticed them as well. He took one look at the spirit herbs in the basket, then at what the two of them were doing, and burst into laughter at the same time. As if they had seen an unbelievable funny scene, the people who came laughed loudly. Their faces were full of mockery and disdain. Brother Chang, during this time in Lufeng Forest, there are really all kinds of people. There are actually these bumpkins who haven't seen the world. Of all the things they can do here, they are actually squatting here pulling grass. This is really funny. An extremely coquettish woman leaned half of her body on the chest of the green-robed middle-aged man. She covered her mouth and laughed in front of Lin Yi and Chu Bubi. Lin Yi glanced at her lightly. This coquettish woman had the strength of the late gold core stage, which was not bad. It seemed that she had a close relationship with the leader, Brother Chang. They should be Taoist companions. Yes. Brother Chang, I bet that these two people must be from a cultivator tribe who has never seen the world. They just saw some common elixirs and thought they were good treasures. A man next to him laughed and pointed at Lin Yi and Chu Bubi. I say, even if you two fill this basket, you won't be able to earn back the 10,000 spirit jades of the teleportation array. It is completely a waste of effort. I really don't know what your brains are made of. This person's strength was at the peak of the late gold core stage. He was the strongest among the 6 people except for the leader, Brother Chang. Seeing that he was so agreeable to the coquettish woman, he was obviously Brother Chang's younger brother. Otherwise, he would not work so hard to flatter his sister-in-law. That's right. This place isn't considered the outskirts anymore. They've taken such a huge risk to come here. Everyone else is here for the rare heavenly treasures, but these two are actually here to pull out the weeds. Their brains really make me speechless. I'm very curious. They are only at the early gold core stage. How did they come in here with such weak strength? Needless to say, they rely on luck. With their weak strength, it is difficult to move around in the periphery of Lufeng Forest, let alone in this place. It is a rare miracle that they can survive until now with their hands and feet intact. Not necessarily. That might not be the case. From the periphery to this place, they have to pass through the territories of a few powerful spiritual beasts. Even if they were lucky, they would not be able to enter by themselves. Furthermore, they must have gathered 6 people in the beginning to be teleported in. I guess they were abandoned by their teammates because they were too weak. That's right. In Lufeng Forest, the strength of the early gold core stage is simply a burden. If I were their teammate, I would definitely not be willing to bring these 2 burdens with me. After gathering enough people to be teleported in, of course they will go their separate ways. In front of Lin Yi and Huang Xiaotao, these people were mercilessly ridiculing. Only Brother Chang, who was the leader, looked indifferent and did not speak. R1152. Chapter 4268. Being ridiculed by so many people, most people would have lost their cool. However, Lin Yi remained unfazed. He continued to squat on the ground and focused on pulling out the weeds. He didn't seem to have any intention to speak. He treated everyone like air and ignored them from the beginning to the end. Huang Xiaotao, who was standing at the side, was a little nervous. However, she wasn't a hot-tempered person. Even though she was being ridiculed like this, it was common for her to be disfigured. Therefore, she didn't take it to heart. As for Lin Yi and Huang Xiaotao, Brother Chang didn't care too much about them. However, after witnessing their performance, he couldn't help but think highly of them. Being ridiculed by so many people and yet able to maintain their composure, it was rare to see someone like that. If it was someone else in their position, they wouldn't dare to retaliate due to the difference in their abilities. However, they definitely wouldn't be able to be as calm as Lin Yi and Huang Xiaotao. Even with Brother Chang's experience, his eyes couldn't help but brighten up. Alright, everyone, stop mocking them. Who hasn't been a newbie before? We all went through that stage. There's no need to be so sarcastic. Brother Chang waved his hand at everyone. He had the demeanor of an original infant cultivator. Everyone instantly stopped talking. Then he turned to Lin Yi and Huang Xiaotao and said, "Both of you, it seems like this is your first time in Lufeng Forest, right?" "That's right. This is indeed our first time here." Lin Yi raised his head and looked at him. He replied in a tone that was neither servile nor overbearing. "Yo, young man, you've got guts. How dare you act tough in front of our Brother Chang?" The young man at the peak of the advanced stage of the golden elixir realm jumped out immediately. He rolled up his sleeves and was ready to teach Lin Yi a lesson. However, Brother Chang merely gave him a look and the young man immediately retreated in embarrassment. He didn't even dare to complain. This person had accumulated a lot of power. Lin Yi already felt that this person wasn't simple. At this moment he was even more certain of this point. Normally, people who had accumulated a lot of power were people who had a strong desire for control. Both of them were powerful people with a strong desire for control. If they could comply with his wishes, then everything would be fine. However, if they disobeyed him and caused things to get out of his control, then it would be very troublesome. Although what they said just now wasn't pleasant to the ears, there was one thing that they were right about. Listen to my advice. Although the spirit herbs on the side look pretty good, even if you fill 10 baskets with them, you won't be able to obtain them. It can't even compare to the 10,000 spirit jades you two paid for the teleportation formation. It's not worth it at all, Brother Chang advised. Lin Yi and Huang Xiaotao looked at each other in surprise. This Brother Chang seemed unexpectedly warm and genial, and he was easier to talk to than they had imagined. With how the cultivation world was filled with deceit, there were usually only two outcomes for encountering each other in a place like Lufeng Forest. They could either kill each other and steal their treasures or they could just pass each other by. There were very few people like him who would take the initiative to stop and give advice. Not to mention this was a high and mighty nascent soul expert. Thank you for your reminder. It's our first time coming to this place. However, we were separated from our teammates, and we didn't dare to wander around in this dense forest. We didn't know where to go, so we could only look for these spirit herbs. It's better than going back empty-handed. Lin Yi came up with an excuse on the spur of the moment. Well, no wonder you're here to collect spirit herbs. Normal people come here for rare treasures like the myriad crossing golden dan fruit. This is the only way it's worth it. Moreover, this is the most famous treasure that Lufeng Forest has ever produced. Brother Chang immediately revealed a look of understanding and said to the two of them with a faint smile. We've also heard of the myriad crossing golden dan fruit. Of course we want it too. It's a pity that we don't know where to look for it. Moreover, we were separated from our teammates. With just our strength, even if we know where it is, we probably won't be able to go. Lin Yi pretended to sigh helplessly, but he couldn't help but laugh in his heart. He had already obtained the myriad crossing golden dan fruit. Wouldn't it be stupid to look for it again? He and Huang Xiaotao weren't greedy people. Rather than taking risks for nothing, it was better to stop and collect more spirit herbs. When it was about time, they would use the teleportation array to leave. This was the safest way. That's true. In the face of such a great treasure, the two of you are still able to keep your hearts. It's not easy to have such self-awareness. Brother Chang praised them and immediately changed the topic. However, rather than wasting time here, why don't the two of you come with us? Come with you. Lin Yi was stunned and looked at Huang Xiaotao. They didn't know each other, and normal people knew the requirements of their teammates. They didn't expect the other party to suddenly make such a suggestion. That's right. We are preparing to go to the ruins of the Audiobook cultivation city. The more people there are, the better. It's a pity that only 6 people can go through the teleportation array. I didn't expect to meet the two of you here. This is also a rare fate. Chang Bro was quite approachable as he took the initiative to explain. You'll be able to get something in return if you come with us. It's much better than staying here and pulling weeds, right? We'll be able to look after each other and it'll be safer as well. What do you two think? Oh? The ruins of the Audiobook cultivation city? What is that place? Is there any treasure inside? Lin Yi couldn't help but ask. When they were with Chu Bubi and the others, everyone's focus was on the nascent ginseng. They rarely mentioned anything unrelated. As for the so-called ruins of the Audiobook cultivation city, they had never heard of it. You haven't heard of it? Brother Chang was also slightly stunned. This place was considered one of the labels of Lufeng Forest. However, considering that it was Lin Yi and Huang Xiaotao's first time here, it was not surprising that they had not heard of it. Yes, we are not locals, so we are ignorant. Please excuse us. Lin Yi was slightly embarrassed as he cupped his hands. It's nothing. The ruins of the Audiobook cultivation city used to be an important city of the spirit beasts. It is said that it was not small at that time, and it was the symbol and center of power of the entire Lufeng Forest. However, for some unknown reason, all the spirit beasts in the city were punished by the king of the spirit beasts. They were all sentenced to death overnight. Since then, it became a deserted city which is now the so-called ruins. Brother Chang took the initiative to explain to the two of them. Lin Yi came to a realization, and the doubt that had been lingering in his mind was finally solved. Although Lufeng Forest was on the edge of the southern island, it was still within the southern island, and there were powerful spirit beasts there. Why did the spirit beasts not care about this place? Chapter 4269. After all, if the spiritual beasts got involved, even if the miasma dissipated, human cultivators would not dare to come in and take the risk to search for treasures. Even original infant-stage cultivators would not dare to do so. This was because it was equivalent to provoking the entire spiritual beast clan. It was not something that could be withstood with just a little bit of strength. But now Linny finally understood. This place was indeed the spiritual beast clan's territory. However, after that incident, the spiritual beast clan abandoned this place and no one ever bothered about it. That was why it became like this today. Linny even guessed that for some unknown reason, the Spirit Beast King didn't really plan on abandoning this place after killing everyone here. After all, this Lufeng Forest was a treasure that couldn't be underestimated by any faction. It was just that the Spirit Beast King had gone missing, and the Spirit Beasts were in chaos from top to bottom, so no one had the time to care about this place. That was the only reason why Lufeng Forest was still in a semi-open state. If it were not for the miasma, the human cultivators around the South Island would have swarmed there. No matter how many treasures of heaven and earth there were in Lufeng Forest, it would not be enough for them to fight for them all year round. The primeval land would probably be ruined from then on. Of course, if that really happened, the spiritual beast clan would not just ignore it. By then, the situation would be completely different. Perhaps Lufeng Forest would be under martial law and human cultivators would not be able to step foot in it anymore. So, the Audwa cultivation city's ruins must be very famous? Linny asked thoughtfully. Of course. The ruins of Audwa cultivation city are not an exaggeration to say that it is the symbol of Lufeng Forest. Also, the spiritual beasts that could stay in the city were all powerful and noble. Anything left behind by spiritual beasts of that level would be a rare treasure in the outside world. Therefore, this is a publicly recognized treasure. Anyone who stays in this sea area for a few days will have heard about it. Brother Chang nodded and said, since it's so famous, people must have flocked to it. No matter how many treasures there are inside, they should have all been taken by now. Linny looked at Chang Bro, a little disinterested. He wasn't as excited as other people when they heard about treasures, but rather doubtful and judgmental. It's rare for you to have such willpower. Brother Chang smiled when he heard that. Then he said, logically speaking, that's true. However, Lufeng Forest can only be entered at this time of the year. Moreover, the ruins of the auto cultivation city are located in the depths of the core. Ordinary people can't go there. Although the ruins are famous and everyone knows about it, the price of a map to get there is sky high. Therefore, only a few people can go there. It's not as much as you think. Oh? However, according to common sense, even if not many people went there, everyone would try their best to plunder all the treasures. In this way, only the first few people would be able to obtain the treasures. It should be very difficult for those who go after that to gain much, right? Linny was still somewhat disapproving. What kind of attitude is that? With Brother Chang's status, talking to a country bumpkin like you is condescending. Do you understand? You don't believe one or two. He really didn't want the face I gave him. The coquettish woman next to Brother Chang curled her lips and said disdainfully. However, before she could finish, Brother Chang turned around and glanced at her. Instantly, his eyebrows drooped. He immediately lowered his eyebrows and did not dare to say another word. When Linny saw this scene, he could not help but secretly shake his head. Even his Taoist companion was so afraid of him. It could be seen that this Brother Chang was really not an approachable person. However, such a person was actually so amiable to an outsider he did not know. Moreover, he was a beginner of the gold elixir realm who was not even on the same level as him. It was really incomprehensible. There must be a reason for this. This person might be another Chu booby. What little brother said is actually not unreasonable. However, the scale of the ruins is larger than that of an ordinary human city. With just a few waves of human cultivators, it is impossible to collect all the treasures in a short period of time. Therefore, the treasures buried in the ruins will not be completely plundered. Brother Chang turned his head and said to Lin Yi, and his expression became calm and warm again. Chapter 4270. Neither. I'll be frank with you. Our goal for this trip is the Star Ink Milk. Elder Brother Chang was very frank and directly stated their group's intentions. Star Ink Milk? Lin Yi was shocked when he heard this. He had never heard of such a thing, but this name was only one word different from the Star Ink Stone. Could there be some connection between the two? That's right. The star ink milk can be said to be one of the most famous treasures produced in the Audwa cultivation city ruins. Because it is formed naturally, even if someone takes all of it, it will gather again after a period of time. Unlike other treasures, you don't have to look for it everywhere. That's why everyone scrambles for it. It's a must-have for almost everyone who enters the ruins, elder brother Chang said with certainty. May I ask, what is the use of this star ink milk? Lin Yi's heart stirred as he asked. As long as he knew its use, he could basically deduce whether it had any connection with the star ink stone or not. The star ink milk is rumored to be a marrow-cleansing liquid that can help one become the strongest nascent soul cultivator. Even for someone like me who has already condensed a nascent soul, the effects after using it are very rare. The value of a small bottle of star ink milk, if taken to the market, is no less than the nascent ginseng. At this point, even this brother Chang, who had always maintained the demeanor of an expert, could not help but have a burning gaze. It was clear that he was determined to obtain the star ink milk. The effect of becoming the strongest nascent soul cultivator is actually so exaggerated. Lin Yi and Huang Xiaotao looked at each other and simultaneously sucked in a breath of cold air. In particular, Lin Yi's heart was currently in a perilous state. The star ink stone could become the strongest golden core cultivator, and the star ink milk could become the strongest nascent soul cultivator. Could it be that they were in the same series? While he was shocked, Lin Yi's heart was burning with passion. He was now in the early golden core stage and had the myriad crossing golden core fruit. When he returned, he would be able to quickly improve. In the future, if he had a fortuitous encounter, advancing to the golden core perfection stage would not be too far away. And the key was that now that he had the nascent ginseng, if he could find a way to get this star ink milk, wouldn't everything be smooth sailing? This was a rare opportunity. If the other party was talking about something like the infant ginseng, Lin Yi might not be moved. After all, he already had it in his hands. For him, the temptation was not as great as the others. However, this star ink milk could complement the infant ginseng. The meaning behind it was completely different. Big brother Chang nodded and said, Hee, if that wasn't the case, why would the world bring up the star ink milk every time the ruins of Audwa Cultivation City are mentioned? But, since the star ink milk is so well known, and you've just said that almost everyone who goes to the ruins on an adventure will go to find the star ink milk as their first stop, I'm guessing that someone has already gotten to it, right? Lin Yi asked again. Even if the star ink milk could be replenished, it would definitely take a lot of time. It was impossible for it to be inexhaustible like seawater. It had already been a few days since the miasma dissipated. Those who had this idea had probably already gone to the ruins of Audwa Cultivation City. The star ink milk was a treasure that was hard to find in this world. Naturally, they would collect as much as they could. There was no way someone would be so kind as to leave some for those who came after them. Little brother, there is something you don't know. The star ink milk is indeed widely known, and everyone who goes to the ruins will think of finding it first. However, the number of people who can actually obtain it can be counted on one hand. Big brother Chang smiled mysteriously and said, there are not many people who can actually find the ruins of Audwa Cultivation City, and the information on the location of the star ink milk is not available on the market. No matter how much spirit jade you spend, you won't be able to buy it. At most, there are only a few people who know about it, and everyone will definitely keep this information a secret. So that's how it is. Lin Yi nodded with a look of understanding. What the guy said was reasonable. The star ink milk could be regenerated every once in a while, and as long as they had accurate information on the location, it was basically the same as being able to get a steady supply of star ink milk every once in a while. This was a true strategic resource. The value of the information on the exact location was even greater than the star ink milk itself. It could even become a core secret passed down from generation to generation. It was not an exaggeration to say that this level of information could not be bought on the market. Among all the human cultivators, I dare say that the number of people who know the true location of the star ink milk is definitely less than 5. Big brother Chang said confidently. Forgive me for asking, but since this information is so rare, how did you know about it? Lin Yi suddenly asked, then added, of course, if it's not convenient for you to answer, just pretend I didn't ask. It's fine. As soon as Lin Yi said this, the others on the side immediately revealed looks of mockery and contempt. Although they did not dare to rebuke Lin Yi because of Big Brother Chang's prestige, their eyes clearly expressed the same meaning. This country bumpkin really doesn't know the immensity of heaven and earth. Big Brother Chang did him the honor of speaking a few words to him, and he actually dared to take advantage of the situation. He even dared to ask such a question. However, Big Brother Chang himself did not show the slightest bit of displeasure. For some reason, this high and mighty original infant stage powerhouse that he did not know was exceptionally tolerant towards Lin Yi and answered all his questions. Little brother, since you asked, then there's nothing inconvenient about it. I won't hide it from you. I didn't know the specific information on this location, but I know a deacon from the spiritual beast clan. He told me. Big brother Chang faintly smiled. A deacon from the spiritual beast clan? Lin Yi could not help but be stunned. Only then did he remember a question that he had subconsciously ignored. He asked curiously, the star ink milk is such a good thing. Even if he knew about it, he would keep it for himself. Why would he tell you? That thing is useless to us. Just then, the ghostly voice suddenly sounded in his mind. What? Aren't spiritual beasts of the original infant stage as well? Lin Yi asked in astonishment. Spiritual beasts are different from you human cultivators. Spiritual beasts are born with innate talent. It is directly determined by the genes of different races. This is purely a natural attribute that differs from race to race and cannot be changed. The ghostly thing explained, to you humans the star ink milk is a good thing that can change your physique. But to us spiritual beasts, it is not. Of course, it is not completely useless, but it is not that exaggerated. At most, it can only be used to increase one's capabilities and assist in cultivation. I see. Lin Yi finally understood. Otherwise, if the star ink milk had the same miraculous effect on spiritual beasts, human cultivators would not even have a chance to use it. R1152. Chapter 4271. Although the original spirit beasts in the ruins had already been sentenced to death, there were still many powerful spirit beasts occupying the Lufeng forest. If they were also so eager for the star ink milk, they would have already plundered it before the miasma dissipated. Why would they leave it for human cultivators? They wouldn't even be able to get a share of it. However, this can also be considered a form of heaven's will. The star ink milk is clearly more useful to you humans, but it only appeared in the territory of the spirit beast clan. Otherwise, if it appeared in the territory of you humans, I reckon that there would have been carnage and rivers of blood. The ghostly thing cackled. Ugh, maybe. Lin Yi didn't know whether to laugh or cry. It was a joke, but with the nature of human practitioners, they'd be willing to fight each other for the slightest bit of benefit. Faced with the temptation of the star ink milk, especially one that could be produced continuously, it wasn't impossible for them to kill each other. While Lin Yi was communicating with the ghostly thing with his primordial spirit, he was also paying attention to what was happening in the outside world. In the eyes of everyone else, there was nothing unusual. This is not strange because it is said that this thing is useless to the spirit beast. Although Big Brother Chang's answer was not as detailed as the ghostly thing, it was the same. Oh. Lin Yi put on a look of realization before sighing. I've heard people say that the spirit beasts occupy the South Island, but they rarely interact with the outside world. You're actually acquainted with one of the spirit beasts, and you're even able to get such important information from him? Normal people don't have this kind of luck. It is difficult for others to establish a relationship with the warden of the spirit beasts, but it is a piece of cake for me. Big Brother Chang smiled proudly and said, my father is the shopkeeper of the all-access gathering in the Wayark territorial waters. Although the spirit beasts are isolated from the outside world, they still need to trade and buy things from the outside world, and our Chamber of Commerce is the place they come to most often. All-access gathering? Hearing this name, Lin Yi's eyelids twitched slightly. Wasn't this one of the Chamber of Commerce giants that joined forces to deal with the Hong Chamber of Commerce? It was also a behemoth that ranked in the top 5. The deacon from the Spirit Beast clan that I mentioned earlier was the person in charge of liaising with our Chamber of Commerce. After a while, we became familiar with each other, which was why he gave me this opportunity. Big Brother Chang suggested again, what do you think? Little brother. This is a very rare opportunity. It must be fate that we met here. Do you want to go together? Lin Yi hesitated. To be honest, he was indeed interested in the star ink milk, but this Brother Chang in front of him was inexplicably so attentive. He felt that there was something strange about it. After all, the example of Chu Bubi was right in front of him, so he had to be on guard. With Lin Yi's shrewdness, he would definitely be able to find a flaw in the other party's words if they were all lies. But if he was like Chu Bubi who could mix the real with the fake, then it would be impossible to guard against. Lin Yi was hesitating. The ghostly thing's voice rang out in his mind again. What he said is true. Even though I haven't personally come to Lufeng Forest, I've heard people talk about the star ink milk produced in Audwa Cultivation City. It should be true. This thing is something that you can only find by chance. You might as well go and give it a try. with the ghostly thing, the elder of the spirit beast clan, vouching for him, Lin Yi immediately heaved a sigh of relief. He nodded inwardly, somewhat tempted. Little brother, what do you think? It can be considered a kind of fate for you to meet me here. If you miss this opportunity, you might lose the opportunity to obtain the star ink milk in the future. You might even regret it. Brother Chang saw that Lin Yi was tempted and struck while the iron was hot. Well, then I want to ask again. How much is there? If we join, will it be enough for so many people? Lin Yi asked carefully. In his opinion, there would definitely not be many rare items like the star ink milk. Furthermore, there were already 6 people in the other party. If the 2 of them joined in, it was hard to say whether they would be able to get a share. Comparing the strength of the 2 parties, even if Lin Yi and Huang Xiaotao joined forces, they would not be able to contend against the 6 of them. If they couldn't even drink the soup, then they could only blame their bad luck and work for nothing. Little brother, your suspicions are not without reason. However, in my opinion, there is no need to worry too much. According to what my friend in charge of the spiritual beast said, the formation protecting the star ink milk has not been opened for 3 years, so it should have accumulated quite a bit. Brother Chang solemnly vowed. Then, how will we split it? Lin Yi continued to ask. Even if there was a lot of star ink milk, it still depended on how they were going to split it. If this brother Chang asked for 8 to 10 caddies of star ink milk and he had his Dao companions by his side, when it came to the 2 of them, it would definitely be difficult. Hehe, you don't have to worry about this. We agreed that everyone can only fill 1 bottle at the beginning. As Brother Chang spoke, he took out a small spiritual jade bottle. The volume was not large, only the size of a bottle of floral water in the secular world. He smiled and said, according to the order of joining the team, I will start first, then everyone will take it in turn. The 2 of you joined last, so naturally you will have to wait until the end to take it. I believe that little brother can understand this, but I believe that there should be enough star ink milk. At the very least, the 2 of you will have 1 bottle left. Brother Chang did not directly pat his chest and say it, because that would make people not believe him. Saying it like this now seemed more pertinent and easier to win people's trust. Lin Yi thought for a moment. This division was fair. After all, the 2 of them had joined temporarily. Whether it was strength or relationship, they were not as good as the others. It was reasonable for them to have the last priority. As long as the other party did not do the deceitful thing of taking all the star ink milk in 1 scoop, there should be some gains according to this distribution method. If there was nothing, then they could only blame their bad luck. Of course, this did not rule out another possibility. That was, Brother Chang broke his promise. That would be a big problem. However, since they had come out to take the risk, they could not escape this risk in any case. If they really pursued perfection, they could only hide at home and not come out. Well, we will join. Thank you for your care. Lin Yi and Huang Xiaotao looked at each other and finally nodded in confirmation. Great, little brother is really extraordinary. You did not let me down. Brother Chang suddenly laughed after hearing this. The reason why he was willing to spend so much effort was to let Lin Yi and Huang Xiaotao join the team together. If Lin Yi finally backed down and admitted defeat, it would really be a waste of time. Chapter 4272. You flatter me. I am Ling Yi, and this is junior sister Huang from the same sect. How should I address you? Lin Yi took the initiative to introduce himself. Since he had decided to join the group, even if he was secretly on guard, he still had to do something to show his face. I am Chang Daoping. You 2 think highly of me. You can call me Brother Chang. Chang Daoping nodded faintly and then said to the other 5 people, you guys should also introduce yourselves. My name is Chao Shishir. The beautiful woman next to Lin Yi glanced at them with disdain. However, since Chang Daoping had spoken, they could only do as he said. They reluctantly said their names and were too lazy to say anything else. Luo Tuoxiang. Next was the younger brother at the peak of the late stage of the Gold Core realm. He was arrogant and didn't put Lin Yi and the other 2 little ants in his eyes. In contrast, Chang Daoping, a master of the original infant stage, was much more magnanimous than him. The other 3 people didn't say much and just said their names. 2 men and 1 woman were Hu Yoli, Fan Dongji and Fang Miaojin. These people mocked Lin Yi and Huang Xiaotao the moment they arrived. Now that they were afraid of Chang Daoping's power, they didn't dare to say anything. However, it was too much to expect them to be nice. Lin Yi and Huang Xiaotao only nodded faintly, not taking it to heart. They didn't have the habit of being snubbed, and Chang Daoping was the leader of the team. It didn't matter if their relationship with these people was good or bad. Lin Yi and Huang Xiaotao only nodded faintly, not taking it seriously. Chang Daoping didn't say much. He deliberately invited Lin Yi and Huang Xiaotao to join the group. Naturally, he had his own reasons. As long as he could achieve his goal, everything else didn't matter. As for how everyone got along with each other, it was not something he needed to care about. No matter how tense the atmosphere was, it didn't matter as long as they didn't piss off Lin Yi and Huang Xiaotao. All right, let's go. Chang Daoping commanded and immediately led the way. Chao Shishir and the others followed closely behind without saying a word. In the end, Lin Yi and Huang Xiaotao looked at each other and followed behind the crowd. Chang Daoping led the way at an extremely fast speed. He was clearly shuttling through the dense forest, and his footsteps were clearly not hurried, but his speed was inexplicably fast. One moment he was here and the next moment he was 50 feet away. If the people behind him were not Golden Core Stage experts. If it was a Foundation Establishment expert, even if it was a Foundation Establishment expert who had completed the Foundation Establishment realm, they might not even be able to keep up with Chang Daoping's footsteps, let alone others. Even the group of Golden Core Stage experts had to constantly consume the true qi in their bodies to keep up with Chang Daoping, who was at the front. During the journey, Chao Shishir, Luo Tuoxiang and the others deliberately turned back to look at the two of them, as if they wanted to see them make a fool of themselves. After all, both of them were only at the early stage of the Gold Core realm. Chang Daoping's speed made it difficult for them to keep up with him, let alone these two at the bottom. They probably had to use all their strength. Only then could they barely keep up and not fall behind. However, when they saw the calm expressions of Lin Yi and Huang Xiaotao at this moment, their expressions suddenly became as strange as if they had eaten shit. The two of them felt even more relaxed than them. Even if they were strong and calm, they also had this kind of strength, right? These two bumpkins at the early stage of the Gold Core realm. Could it be that they were still hiding some powerful trump card? At least it should not be as simple as it looked on the surface. In fact, the current speed was not beyond the range of the two people's endurance. Not to mention Lin Yi, even Huang Xiaotao, who had been doing trial missions in the dense forest all year round, could completely adapt. Don't forget her martial arts skills and ability, the virgin forest was her best home. Of course, such a fast journey for a long time would consume a lot of qi reserves. However, Lin Yi had been holding her hand and could replenish her qi at any time, so naturally there was no pressure. After rushing for 4 to 6 hours, Chang Daoping, who was in front, finally stopped and gestured for everyone to rest for a while. Everyone nodded silently and sat cross-legged to recover their qi. Chang Daoping himself did not speak, which was completely different from the amiable and approachable style he had shown before. The atmosphere was quite heavy. Although Lin Yi and Huang Xiaotao were full of qi, in order to not attract attention, they also sat cross-legged to recover. Lin Yi could not help but ask, "Brother Chang, I have a question. You have been leading the way all the way and it seems that you have not used us in any way. Why did you invite us to join and let us share for no reason? Only by showing enough value would people come to rope you in, and then you would have enough status and right to speak." However, in the current situation, no matter how Lin Yi looked at it, he felt that the two of them were superfluous. They were simply called to freeload the Star Ink milk for no reason. There must be something wrong when things were abnormal. This matter felt strange no matter how he thought about it. "You will know in a while." Chang Daoping replied indifferently, but he only said this before continuing to meditate with his eyes closed, and he paid no further attention to Lin Yi and Huang Xiaotao. Lin Yi originally wanted to ask another question, but when he saw Chang Daoping's attitude, it had completely turned 180 degrees from when he was trying to rope him in earlier. Obviously, Chang Daoping was unwilling to pay attention to him, so it was useless to say anything more at this moment. However, with the speed at which this person changed his attitude like flipping a book, the slight uneasiness in Lin Yi's heart was instantly magnified. This person is obviously not too reliable. If he doesn't keep his word later, then the two of us will probably really suffer a loss. However, despite his misgivings, Lin Yi did not reveal any of it on his face, and he was still carefree as before. In any case, with the combined combat strength of him and Huang Xiaotao, if they were to really fall out and fight in the end, it was still uncertain who would be the one laughing in the end. Moreover, from Chang Daoping's words, he could also tell that he must have a special intention to deliberately rope them in. Before they were put to use, he would not easily fall out with them. The only thing that needed to be paid attention to was whether he would use the lives of Gold Core Stage experts as a sacrifice like Chu Bubi did before. He must be careful about this. After resting for about 1 hour, Chang Daoping once again led everyone on their journey. After walking for another 2 hours, Chang Daoping, who was leading the way, stopped. Everyone only felt that there was suddenly a clear view in front of them, and they actually felt like they had walked out of a primeval forest. Just now, it was still a dense forest that was overgrown with vegetation, and every step forward was difficult. However, there was nothing in front of them, and it was barren as far as the eye could see. There were no towering trees that were dozens of meters tall, nor were there dense weeds and shrubs. The only thing that everyone could see was a real wasteland. Chapter 4273. Are we out of the Lufeng forest? Chao Shirshir couldn't help but ask after being stunned for a moment. Everyone else also looked at each other. Lin Yi and Huang Xiaotao looked at each other, not understanding what was going on. The wasteland in front of them seemed endless, and while they knew that it wasn't quite possible, they couldn't help but think the same way as Chao Shirshir. Was Chang Daoping leading the way too fast, and accidentally leading everyone out of Lufeng forest? How is that possible? Listen up, this is the ruins of Ao Duo Cultivation City. Chang Daoping chuckled and pointed at the empty wasteland in front of them. Huh. Everyone was stunned. They opened their mouths wide and said in surprise, "What kind of ruins is this? It's just a wasteland, there's nothing here?" Their initial excitement immediately dissipated. If it was really as Chang Daoping said, that this place was the ruins of the legendary Ao Duo Cultivation City, then everyone was really disappointed. What kind of treasures could there be in such a barren place? Even if there was, they could see it at a glance. How could they have the chance to look for it now? Huang Xiaotao gently pulled on Lin Yi's sleeve. Her eyes were filled with disbelief. Even she couldn't help but suspect that Chang Daoping deliberately brought everyone to this barren place. Did he have some ulterior motives? Perhaps this person had the same sinister intentions as Chu Bubi? No matter how they looked at it, it was too ridiculous to say that this place was the ruins of Ao Duo Cultivation City. Even a 3-year-old child wouldn't believe it. However, after being surprised for a moment, Lin Yi calmed down. Even if Chang Daoping had ulterior motives, he wouldn't deceive everyone like this. At first glance, the place in front of them seemed to be a wasteland, as if there really was nothing there. However, if they used their divine sense to perceive it, they would find that there seemed to be a giant wall in front of them. Divine sense couldn't penetrate it at all. There must be something mysterious here. While everyone was puzzled, Luo Tuoxiang seemed to have sensed something. He immediately raised the corner of his mouth and wanted to show off in front of everyone. He stepped forward. Chang Daoping shouted coldly, "Come back. Do you want to get lost in there and never see the light of day for the rest of your life?" "What? Isn't this a smokescreen?" Luo Tuoxiang was startled and quickly retreated. He could also feel that this place was unusual. "I thought it was just a smokescreen to fool people." "Illusion?" Chang Daoping scoffed and responded, "I've already told you that this is the Odor Cultivation City's ruin. Do you think the Spirit Beast's former important city would use such a childish trick like a smokescreen?" Luo Tuoxiang shrunk his neck in embarrassment. When the others heard this, they finally reacted and looked at Chang Daoping. "Listen up, this is a formation and it's not just a simple camouflage. If you step in without finding the correct path, you will be lost in the barren land for the rest of your life, unable to walk out. Even if others want to save you, they won't be able to," Chang Daoping said to everyone. Everyone was shocked when they heard this. At first glance, there was nothing special about this desert except that it was a bit out of place. Who would have thought that there would be such dangers hidden within it? 9 out of 10 people who didn't know the trick would probably fall for it. Many people could see the mysteries hidden in this barren land. However, most of them would try to break the formation like Luo Tuoxiang did. If they tried, wouldn't they be throwing themselves into danger? Everyone had goosebumps before they even saw what the Odor Cultivation City's ruin looked like. They didn't dare to let their guard down. This place could kill people without spilling blood. "Big Brother Chang, what kind of formation is this?" Chao Shirshir asked the question on everyone's mind. "Moon Shadow Array," Chang Daoping said indifferently. When everyone revealed a puzzled expression, he continued to explain, "This is a very brilliant formation. It has both concealment and disorientation effects. If someone doesn't understand it, they will never be able to enter the Odor Cultivation City's ruin. Brother Chang, since you know about this formation, you must have a way to break it, right?" Lin Yi suddenly asked. "That's right. The so-called lunar shadow formation, as the name suggests, is definitely related to the moon. I've studied this formation before. It requires 8 extremely powerful people to set it up. Correspondingly, in order to break it, there must be 8 people each occupying a specific position, and only then can they break it." Chang Daoping looked at Lin Yi and said, "Now you know why I asked you two to come together." Lin Yi nodded. The Lufeng Roads transfer array could only send 6 people at a time. There couldn't be one more or one less. Moreover, because the location of the transfer was random, Even if Chang Daoping knew that 8 people were needed to break the formation, he couldn't gather 8 people. Unless he mobilized a large force and gathered 12 people at once, then divided them into 2 teams and teleported in. Afterwards he would think of a way to gather the 2 teams. But this was too troublesome and the feasibility was obviously not high. Moreover, with 12 people coming at once, he reckoned that there wouldn't be enough star ink milk for so many people. Therefore there was only one method left for Chang Daoping. That was to bring a team in first, and then find a way to find another 2 cultivators in Lu Feng Forest to temporarily join him. As there were many cultivators who came to Lu Feng Forest to adventure, this method was obviously more reliable. Lin Yi and Huang Xiaotao, who had been separated from their teammates, were naturally excellent candidates in Chang Daoping's eyes. Firstly, they met the requirements of the number of people. Secondly, their strength was only at the early golden core stage. They could meet the requirements of breaking the formation, and at the same time, they couldn't do anything with their strength. It was easy to use and safe, killing 2 birds with 1 stone. It was precisely because of this that Chang Daoping, who had always been strong and overbearing, was so enthusiastic to Lin Yi and Huang Xiaotao. In the end, it was all for the sake of breaking the formation. After figuring this out, Lin Yi's vigilance against Chang Daoping was slightly relaxed. If what he said about breaking the formation was true, then he didn't have to worry too much. At least, he could ensure that he wouldn't be like Chu Bubi, who was tricked by him into offering sacrifices and died in vain. After all, the original purpose of setting up the Lunar Shadow Array was for the Spirit Beast clan to hide and protect Audwa Cultivation City. They could not possibly offer sacrifices to 8 experts every time they entered the city, right? That would be too ridiculous. Chapter 4274. Brother Chang, let's hurry up and break the array, shall we? Luo Tuoxiang said eagerly. His strength was already at the peak of the late Gold Core realm. Apart from Chang Daoping, he was the closest to the nascent Soul realm. If he could get the star ink milk at this time, it would be of great significance to him. What's the hurry? Do you have a brain? Chang Daoping rolled his eyes at him and scolded him coldly. Brother Chang. Luo Tuoxiang was inexplicably scolded again. Lin Yi looked at this scene and could not help but smile secretly. Chang Daoping looked unfathomable, and this little brother of his seemed to have a high level at first glance. However, no matter how he looked at it, he looked like an idiot. I've already said that the Moon Shadow Array is related to the moon. If we want to break the array, we naturally have to rely on the moonlight. Look, is there moonlight now? Chang Daoping curled his lips slightly. Everyone came to a realization. At this moment, although the sky was gradually darkening, it was not completely dark yet. Naturally, there could not be moonlight. They could only wait quietly. However, they could not help but worry in their hearts. Could they really see the moon here? Even putting aside the weather conditions, there was still a thick layer of miasma above their heads. During the day, even the sunlight could not completely penetrate it, so the light was so weak, let alone the moon at night. Although they were puzzled, they did not dare to rashly ask Chang Daoping. Lin Yi and Huang Xiaotao did not understand him, but these people were very clear about Chang Daoping's character. This brother Chang was not the kind of person who would answer every question. No matter what they did, everyone just needed to follow his orders. If they asked too many questions, they would only be annoyed and scolded. Therefore, they could understand why Chang Daoping was so surprised when he tried to rope in Lin Yi and Huang Xiaotao. About 2 hours later, the sky finally turned completely dark. Under the expectant gazes of the crowd, a few beams of gentle moonlight sprinkled down from above their heads. Although it looked very weak at first glance, it was still a beautiful sight. Although it looked weak at first glance, when it shone on the wasteland in front of them, it was surprisingly bright. Everyone suddenly breathed a sigh of relief. Only then did they remember that this was not a dense forest. Of course, this little bit of moonlight was not enough in the dense forest, but in this empty wasteland it was enough. At first, Lin Yi subconsciously thought that the secrets of the moon shadow formation lay in the moonlight that shone through the miasma, and that the moonlight was pointing to the formation's location. However, Lin Yi immediately knew that he was wrong because although there were only a few beams of moonlight, it was actually the location of the array. At first glance, it was indeed very misleading, but upon closer inspection, one would find that they were constantly moving. It was not the moonlight itself that was moving, but the miasma layer above them was moving. But if it was not the location indicated by the moonlight, then what was the key? As such, Daoping array Lin Yi Luo and Luo Luo would be and Luo O Lin Yi and Chin and Lin Long and Long Lin Yi and Lin and Chang dynasty and moon of. Everyone did not know what was going on and could only stare at Chang Daoping. They were waiting for him to dispel everyone's doubts, but this brother Chang was indifferent. Not to mention breaking the array, it seemed like he was too lazy to even move. He calmly looked at the wasteland in front of him. Chang Daoping did not say anything, so everyone did not dare to ask. They could only wait patiently by the side. Just like that, they waited until midnight. As the moonlight grew brighter and brighter, they looked at each other in dismay, not daring to act rashly. "All right, it's about time." Chang Daoping finally stood up. Everyone instantly became excited and eager. However, when Lin Yi took a look, the wasteland in front of him did not feel any different from before. It was just that the light was slightly brighter, and there was no mysterious array formation appearing. Where is this so-called lunar shadow array? Lin Yi was puzzled. However, looking at Chang Daoping's expression, he didn't think he was putting on an act, right? Wait, moon shadow array. Suddenly, an idea flashed in Lin Yi's mind. When he looked at the wasteland in front of him again, he finally understood something. Previously, when he observed this wasteland, other than being barren, there was nothing special about it. However, now that he took a closer look, especially when he paid special attention to the shadows on the ground, he discovered that something was amiss. The wasteland was bumpy and uneven, so it was not strange that there were shadows everywhere. Ordinary people would not notice them. However, Lin Yi's gaze landed on 8 rather special shadows. One in the middle was in the shape of a half-moon, while the other 7 were in the shape of stars. If these 7 star-shaped shadows were connected together, it would be a well-known star array, the Big Dipper. And in the center of it was the shadow of the half-moon. The wasteland was at most bumpy and uneven. If there was no special setting, how could such strange-shaped shadows appear out of nowhere? This time Lin Yi was 100% sure that the Big Dipper and the shadow of the half-moon must be the lunar shadow array that Chang Daoping mentioned. While Lin Yi was speculating, Chang Daoping took out a small flag from his backpack. At first glance, it looked like the cheering flags used by football fans in the secular world. There was nothing special about it. However, after careful observation, he found that this small flag was not as simple as it looked. There was a profound mystery in it that was almost on par with the array formations that Lin Yi had seen before. Array flag? Lin Yi was slightly stunned. Although he did not have this thing, he could recognize it. This was a very professional array tool. Whether it was setting up or breaking arrays, it was absolutely indispensable. Moreover, array flags weren't something that could be casually used by any expert. The skills required to use them weren't inferior to those of alchemy and blacksmithing. They needed to be specially trained before they could use them. Ordinary people wouldn't be able to use them, and they wouldn't even know how to use them. From this, it could be seen that Chang Daoping was either an array formation expert or he had specially studied it to break the lunar shadow array. Regardless of which one it was, this person was not simple. Go there. Chang Daoping pointed at Luo Tuoxiang and then pointed at a spot in the wasteland. As Lin Yi expected, this spot was one of the Big Dipper's 7 stars. Ah, Brother Chang, didn't you say that we would not be able to come out once we entered? Luo Tuoxiang was shocked. He looked at Chang Daoping in horror and quickly waved his hands as he retreated. Once one entered the lunar shadow array, one would be completely lost in it. No one would be able to save them. This was what Chang Daoping had said earlier. Chapter 4275. Whether it was his background or strength, Chang Daoping had always been the strongest in the team. No one could question his decision, not even his Dao companion, let alone a mere little brother. No. Brother Chang, I didn't mean it that way. Luo Tuoxiang's face turned pale and he waved his hands. Brother Chang, of course I will follow your instructions, but this... Luo Tuoxiang had followed Chang Daoping to the Audiobook cultivation city remnant for the star ink milk. He hadn't even seen the shadow of the star ink milk, yet Chang Daoping wanted him to enter the moon shadow array. Wasn't that just sending him to his death? Sure enough, he was an idiot who didn't know anything. Lin Yi watched this scene and shook his head with a smile. However, Chao Shishir and the others didn't have the same eyesight as him. They all looked nervous, afraid that after Luo Tuoxiang, Chang Daoping would point at them. Humph, do you really think I'm sending you to your death by letting you in? Chang Daoping snorted coldly. Although you can't barge into the moon shadow array, I have the array flag in my hand. As long as you don't wander around, you won't get into trouble. What are you afraid of? What a useless piece of trash. So that's how it is. Luo Tuoxiang finally understood and didn't dare to hesitate. He quickly ran in the direction Chang Daoping pointed at. Although he was still panicking, Chang Daoping still needed everyone's help to break the array. Luo Tuoxiang didn't think that Brother Chang would kill him. He definitely had his reasons for doing so. The moon shadow array had a disorienting effect. Everyone thought that Luo Tuoxiang would disappear after he ran in, but nothing happened even after Luo Tuoxiang stood still. Not only could he see normally, but there was also no obstruction of sound. It felt no different from an ordinary wasteland. Lin Yi nodded his head. Although he couldn't see any changes with the naked eye, if he used his divine sense, he would discover that there was a faint fluctuation of qi between Luo Tuoxiang and the array flag in Chang Daoping's hand, connecting them together. Among the acquaintances that Lin Yi knew, the Will of Heaven was quite knowledgeable about formations. When they were chatting in Nakajima, Lin Yi had heard him talk about it. Although there were various ways to break a formation, they all had one thing in common. That was to use an array to break an array. When many people worked together to break the array, they would use the array flags as the array core. Everyone would temporarily form an array formation and then use the array formation to break the array formation. Although there were also situations where a single person broke the array formation, even then, array flags were needed. It could be understood as a single person forming the array formation. Just like now, because of the array flags, Luo Tuoxiang and Chang Daoping had actually become a temporary array formation. Therefore, even if he walked into the moon shadow array, he would not be disturbed at all. This was because he was protected by the temporary array, and it looked like he was within the range of the moon shadow array. Actually, he was not trapped by the lunar shadow formation at all. It was the same as standing outside. What they needed to do next was for everyone to join in one by one and maximize the power of this temporary formation. In the end, he was able to break the lunar shadow formation. Sure, you go there. Sure enough, Chang Daoping immediately said to Chao Sure. The position he indicated was naturally one of the 7 stars of the Big Dipper. Chao Sure opened her mouth, feeling a little afraid. However, when she saw Chang Daoping's serious expression, she was afraid that she would be scolded like Luo Tuoxiang. Immediately, she did not dare to say anything. After dawdling for a moment, she finally gathered her courage and walked over. Following that, Chang Daoping also sent the other 3 to their respective positions in the 7 stars of the Big Dipper. When it was finally Lin Yi and Huang Xiaotao's turn, Chang Daoping was suddenly stunned. This was because the 2 of them actually walked to the side by themselves. Brat, things have come to this. Do you want to be deserters? When Luo Tuoxiang saw this, he immediately jumped up and said mockingly, "Humph, cowardly country bumpkins. I knew that these 2 people are unreliable. They are useless. At the crucial moment, they will only harm their teammates." When he said this, he seemed to have forgotten his own reaction. Just now, when Chang Daoping asked him to be the first to enter, he was so scared that he almost peed his pants. In the end, when he realized that there was no danger, he became arrogant. "That's right. We have already come in. These 2 people actually want to sneak away. Isn't it a waste of time and putting all of us in danger?" Chao Sure also sneered and said to Chang Daoping, "Brother Chang, you can't let the 2 of them slip away just like that." When the other 3 saw this, they also echoed and scolded. After all, standing in their current positions, they had to take risks no matter what. If Lin Yi and Huang Xiaotao ran away like that, wouldn't they take such a big risk for nothing? What do you mean? I've said so much to you. In the end, you only regret it now. That's not right? Chang Daoping's face was also a little gloomy. 8 people were needed to break the array. If Lin Yi and Huang Xiaotao did not cooperate, it would be useless no matter how capable he was. Could it be that I guessed wrong? Brother Chang, you don't plan to let us stand here? Lin Yi pointed to the remaining 2 positions of the Big Dipper not far in front of him. Hey, if you want to get cold feet, then get cold feet. You are obviously a coward, but you still dare to put on a show? What a joke. When Luo Tuoxiang saw this, he became even more unbridled. He pointed at Lin Yi and Huang Xiaotao and laughed. The lunar shadow array is such a profound array. Brat, don't tell me that even you know how to break it? He is just an early-stage golden core bumpkin. If even this kind of person can break the array, then pigs can climb trees. For this trip to the ruins, in order to break this array, even Brother Chang specially prepared for half a year. Chao Sure curled her lips and said. She did not know about the lunar shadow array previously, but as Chang Daoping's dual cultivation partner, she was very clear about what Chang Daoping had been doing previously. In order to study the array, Chang Daoping specially went into seclusion to prepare for half a year. From the previous performance, Lin Yi and Huang Xiaotao were clearly the same as them. They had never heard of the lunar shadow array. In order to break the lunar shadow array, even Chang Daoping had to go through so much trouble. If Lin Yi and Huang Xiaotao were able to see through the mystery of the array so easily, it was simply impossible. It was simply a fool's dream. So, these two bumpkins must be trying to get cold feet and still quibble here. What a joke. Luo Tuoxiang sneered. Although there was no enmity between them and they had never even met before, he disliked Lin Yi from the first moment he saw him. Whether it was Chang Daoping's enthusiasm towards him or Lin Yi's indifferent temperament, he hated it to the extreme. He could not wait to trample on this brat. Chapter 4276. However, before Luo Tuoxiang could finish speaking, Chang Daoping, who was at the side, suddenly shot him a sharp look. His words stopped abruptly. You shut up. What a piece of trash. You're the one who's ignorant, yet you're talking about others. Chang Daoping scolded in exasperation. He was annoyed at himself for accepting such a shameful follower. He was clearly stupid, yet he was talking about others. He had lost all his face. Brother Chang, Luo Tuoxiang had a wronged expression. He didn't know where he was wrong, but he didn't dare to say anything. He could only watch helplessly. Brother Ling Yi is indeed not an ordinary person. This is the first time I've seen someone with such keen observation skills. Chang Daoping nodded his head and said, That's right. Those two are your positions. Okay. Lin Yi smiled faintly and exchanged a look with Huang Xiaotao. The two of them walked to the remaining two positions of the Big Dipper. Seeing this scene, everyone finally realized that Lin Yi and Huang Xiaotao weren't some country bumpkins. They could really see through the mysteries of the lunar shadow array. In comparison, they were the real frogs at the bottom of the well. The two didn't do anything, but everyone felt their cheeks burning as if they'd been slapped in the face. They didn't dare look down on the two anymore. They'd truly experienced what it meant to not judge a book by its cover, and what it meant to look down on people with dog eyes. As for Luo Tuoxiang and Chao Shishir, they looked at Lin Yi and Huang Xiaotao with even more hatred. It was these two country bumpkins who didn't know the immensity of heaven and earth that made them lose face in front of Brother Chang. After everyone stood at the positions of the Big Dipper, Chang Daoping held the array flag and walked to the position of the half moon facing the Big Dipper. Only then were the 8 of them in position. At first, everyone didn't feel anything. However, when Chang Daoping was in position, the originally ordinary scene in front of them suddenly changed. His appearance suddenly changed. Shadows appeared under his feet, and suddenly, countless exquisite and mysterious patterns appeared. When they were combined together, it became a huge formation. It really appeared. Everyone exclaimed in pleasant surprise. Being able to see the lunar shadow array meant that their trip was not in vain. They finally had a chance to enter the ancient remnant. Of course, they had to break this array first. Lin Yi lowered his head to take a look. At first glance, it didn't look much different from the Lu Feng's path teleportation formation. However, if one looked closely, they would discover that the patterns were completely different from each other. Naturally, the effects were also completely different. Everyone listen up. We are now officially in the lunar shadow formation. If everything goes as expected, we should be able to see the formation core in a while. Attack with all your might after I give the order. However, you have to pay special attention to one thing. During the process of attacking the formation core will explode. Don't move your feet. Otherwise, if someone deviates from their position, the formation eye will immediately disappear, and all our previous efforts will be in vain. Do you understand? Chang Daoping said to everyone in a clear voice. Understood. Everyone nodded in unison, but then someone couldn't help but ask, Brother Chang, what does the array core look like? You'll know soon enough. Chang Daoping replied faintly and didn't say anything else. Lin Yi, on the other hand, was puzzled. He wasn't curious about what the array core looked like the others, but he was puzzled by Chang Daoping's words. Attacking the array core with all his might, wouldn't that destroy the lunar shadow formation? The lunar shadow formation wasn't just a simple defensive formation. At the same time, it was also the gate to the ancient remnant of Audwa Cultivation City. Normally, as long as certain conditions were met, they should be able to enter the ancient remnant. There was no need to destroy the entire lunar shadow formation. After all, that would definitely take a lot more time and effort. Furthermore, the array core was the core of the formation. Even if one was inside the formation, it would be difficult to detect it. Since the lunar shadow formation was so unfathomable, how could it be easily discovered? However, although he was puzzled, Lin Yi didn't ask this question in front of everyone. In any case, looking at Chang Daoping's expression, even if he asked, he might not get an answer. Moreover, although this was common knowledge, many people didn't know. Whether Chang Daoping really understood this or had other plans, only he himself would know. After everyone waited quietly for a moment, someone suddenly cried out in surprise. Unknowingly, the sky above them had suddenly become radiant. A huge sphere that looked like the moon quietly floated in the air. It was as if the moon had fallen from the sky. It was truly a shocking sight. This is the array core. Everyone listen to my command. Later, attack with all your might. Don't hold anything back. Although this moon shadow array has been around for a long time, its power hasn't weakened much. If everyone doesn't work together or if someone doesn't put in the effort, it's impossible to break it. Moreover, it will only appear around midnight. Once this time passes, all the previous efforts will be wasted. Chang Daoping shouted at everyone. Understood. Everyone nodded in unison and rubbed their palms together. Everyone was here for the star ink milk and knew the pros and cons. No one would be stupid enough to slack off at this time. That would only cause harm to others and themselves. Alright, let's attack now. Chang Daoping suddenly shouted and took the lead to attack. The other 7 people didn't dare to be negligent. They all used their best martial arts techniques and attacked the huge ball above their heads with all their might. After all, they were all experts of the golden core stage. Everyone's strength was unquestionable. In an instant, all kinds of powerful martial arts techniques poured onto the huge ball. Among them, Lin Yi and Huang Xiaotao were no exception. However, they weren't stupid enough to expose their trump cards in front of everyone. They definitely couldn't use the frenzied 8 trigrams palm strike even if they wanted to because they couldn't leave their respective positions. According to Chang Daoping, once they deviated from the Big Dipper, the huge ball above their heads might disappear. Therefore, Lin Yi and Huang Xiaotao only used their own martial arts techniques and didn't deliberately hold back. The power that the two of them could unleash at this moment, although they didn't dare to say that they could match up to everyone else, they were at least far stronger than an ordinary early-stage golden core stage expert. The 8 of them worked together to attack the eye of the formation. Among them, Chang Daoping, a great nascent soul expert, was the leader. At first, everyone didn't think that this matter would be difficult. However, when they attacked, they watched as their proudest martial arts techniques landed on the huge ball. In the end, it was like a clay ox entering the sea. It didn't seem to have any effect at all. Only then did they realize it. The lunar shadow formation was a huge formation that protected the entire Ao Duo cultivation city. In the past, the people who created this formation were the 8 top experts of the spiritual beast clan. Even though it had been abandoned for so many years, even with the combined strength of the 8 of them, it was easier said than done to destroy it. Chapter 4277. Don't hesitate. Time is limited. If we persist like this, we will definitely be able to break the array. Chang Daoping saw everyone's expression and was afraid that they would retreat, so he hurriedly shouted and encouraged them. Everyone did not dare to be negligent. All of them were in high spirits and continued to exert their martial arts skills with all their might. They bombarded the huge sphere above their heads desperately. In the beginning, everyone's attacks did not have any effect at all. The huge sphere did not react at all. However, after everyone attacked with all their strength for the time it took to burn a stick of incense, they finally began to feel something strange. After that, when they attacked the giant sphere again, it wasn't like before. Instead, they clearly felt a trace of rebound force. This feeling was like the previous frenzied attacks. After being completely absorbed by the giant sphere, it was finally saturated. Everyone suddenly showed a look of surprise. No matter what the change was, as long as there was a change, it was a good thing. This meant that they were not doing useless work, it meant that there was hope to enter the ruins. Come on everyone, let's work harder. It's almost done. Chang Daoping shouted again quickly. When everyone heard this, they immediately went all out and stimulated their martial arts skills even more crazily. At the same time, Chang Daoping also waved the array flag with all his might. No one knew what powerful martial arts he used, but an extremely dazzling light beam directly bombarded the huge sphere from one end of his array flag. The power was so shocking that the entire sphere showed signs of collapsing. With such a powerful big brother taking the lead, everyone suddenly became more excited and worked harder. They subconsciously thought that as long as they could defeat this huge sphere, it was equivalent to breaking the array. However, Lin Yi saw all of this and was not as superficial as the others. This sign was indeed a bit like breaking the array, but it was definitely not as everyone imagined. Because as long as one used divine sense to perceive, they would find that Chang Daoping was not attacking the huge sphere at this moment. On the contrary, he was actually using the array flag to quickly transfer the huge energy accumulated on the sphere to himself. Everyone was just kept in the dark by him. This guy really has other tricks. Lin Yi understood in his heart. He was always paying attention to Chang Daoping's every move. If the other party made any move that was not beneficial to him, he must ensure that he could leave with Huang Xiaotao in an instant. Right at this moment, under the joint attack of the others, the huge sphere suddenly let out a rumbling sound. Cracks appeared on its surface, and the number of cracks increased at a speed visible to the naked eye. In the end, the cracks were densely packed and it could no longer hold on. Boom. The huge sphere suddenly exploded, and the huge energy that originally belonged to everyone instantly poured down on top of their heads. Everyone was caught off guard and they were directly blown away, all of them suffering serious injuries. Amidst the chaos, Lin Yi quickly healed himself and Huang Xiaotao. At the same time, he did not forget to pay attention to Chang Daoping. However, he discovered that Chang Daoping was not injured at all. After Chang Daoping transferred the huge amount of energy to himself, he took advantage of the moment when the huge sphere exploded to immediately send the energy to another stone lock that had suddenly appeared. At this moment, the surrounding environment suddenly changed. Everyone felt dizzy, and when they came to their senses, the surrounding environment had changed drastically. It was completely different from the scene before. There was no dense forest or barren land. Everyone was standing on an empty street, and in front of them was a large, lifeless city. Not far away, the city gate was engraved with the words, Ordo Cultivation City. Listening to Brother Chang was right. We're finally in. Chao Shishir immediately said excitedly. It was as if she had even forgotten about her injuries. Everyone else was also pleasantly surprised. Now that they could enter the ruins, the star ink milk that they had been dreaming of was within reach. When Lin Yi saw this scene, he could not help but secretly purse his lips. This group of people had been kept in the dark by Chang Daoping from beginning to end, and they were still in a trance. It really made him not know whether to laugh or cry. Lin Yi had completely understood what had happened just now. Chang Daoping indeed had no intention of harming everyone, but he was definitely not telling everyone the truth. The huge sphere that everyone had attacked with all their strength was not the eye of the array, but the stone lock that had suddenly appeared. Everyone had spent so much effort, but they were actually working for Chang Daoping. All of them were exhausted like dogs, and some of them were even injured. Only Chang Daoping was full of energy. He hadn't wasted any energy at all, and he wasn't injured at all. The only thing he had done just now was to extract everyone's energy and transfer it to the stone lock's eye while everyone was in a mess. For a nascent soul stage expert like him, this kind of small matter could not be any easier. From beginning to end, everyone was just doing manual labor for Chang Daoping, and they did not even know why they were doing it. Don't look at how they followed Chang Daoping in this time. If they came by themselves next time, they wouldn't even know what the eye of the array was, let alone enter. Along the way, Chang Daoping had been leading the way alone, not giving the others any time to memorize the route, let alone look at the map. Now that he had broken the array, he had deliberately held back. It was clear that he did not want the others to know the way to enter the ruins. However, thinking about it carefully, it was not unreasonable for Chang Daoping to do this. After all, the star ink milk was a treasure that would continuously condense. Even if it was taken out this year, there would be more next year and the year after that. If everyone knew the way to enter the ruins, then wouldn't Chang Daoping have a group of competitors for no reason? Not only was it common in the secular world, but it was also common in the cultivation world. In front of a rare treasure like the star ink milk, all intimate relationships had to stand aside. Even if they were Dao companions, they had to be guarded against. Actually, this should be the wasteland we saw just now. It was just that it was hidden by the moon shadow array, so we couldn't see it before. Chang Daoping explained to everyone. I see. Everyone nodded in understanding. They were all eager to try and could not contain their excitement. They even ignored the injuries on their bodies. At this moment, everyone's eyes followed the empty street in front of them, extending forward. They could not see the end of it, and it was directly facing the city gate. It seemed to be a main road. On both sides of the road, there were some extremely old shops and pavilions. There were also some dilapidated walls. There were some words written on the walls, but as for what the words were, they could not be seen clearly. Compared to everyone's excitement, Lin Yi's reaction was much calmer. He did not forget to hold Huang Xiaotao's hand to heal each other's injuries while observing the scene in front of him. R1152. Chapter 4278. As a qualified assassin, the first thing he did after arriving at a new place was to observe his surroundings. It was a good habit that Lin Yi still maintained even now. There shouldn't be any danger in this place. Everyone relax and adjust yourselves, then follow me in, Chang Daoping said to everyone. No danger? Lin Yi frowned disapprovingly. This was a dead city, and there were very few adventurers who could enter the ruins. Logically speaking, there should indeed be no danger. However, this did not conform to Lin Yi's judgment. In this short period of observation, he noticed a rather strange detail. Although this place was old, there was something unusual about it. Logically speaking, this place should be covered in dust and the surrounding buildings should be even more decayed. However, in reality, Lin Yi could clearly see that the ground was very clean, as if someone often walked around and cleaned it. Apart from that, Lin Yi did not smell any particularly strong decaying aura. Normally, a dead city like this would decay after being empty for a few years because there were no living things. This was really unusual. Could it be that there were people living here? That was really strange. Lin Yi secretly shook his head, but he was not too worried. Although he felt that something was strange, he did not really sense any dangerous aura. Furthermore, the jade pendant did not give him any warning, which was enough to prove that there was no danger for the time being. Who cared if it was strange or not? Since they were already here, there was no harm in taking a good look first. Perhaps they could really find the star ink milk. While everyone rested, Chang Daoping took out a small map from his bosom. There was a vague layout of the city on it, which was clearly the internal structure of the Ordo Cultivation City ruins. This was a secret map that the Spirit Beast clan's deacon had privately given to him. If it was just a simple map of the route from Lufeng Forest to the ruins, although it was also very rare, it could be bought as long as one was willing to pay a high price. However, the layout of the ruins in Chang Daoping's hands was different. This was something that could not be bought with any amount of spiritual jade. The ruins of Auto Cultivation City were extremely famous. However, if one wanted to enter the ruins to search for treasures, putting aside the dangers of Lufeng Forest itself, there were at least 3 obstacles left. The first difficulty was how to find the historical remains. This was relatively the easiest part. As long as one spent an exorbitant amount of spiritual jades, one could buy a map on the market. However, this itself was a threshold. Since it was exorbitant, it was destined that most people would not be able to reach this threshold. What happened after that was even more impossible. The second challenge was how to pass through the lunar shadow array. This required very professional preparation. Most people would not even know how to pass through the lunar shadow array. Many people did not even know if there was a lunar shadow array. They might not even know if there was a lunar shadow array. They might step into the wasteland without any preparation and be lost forever. The third difficulty was what Lin Yi and the others had to face. After going through all the hardships to successfully enter the ruins, how to search for treasures was another big problem that they had to face. After so many years of plundering, there were very few treasures that could be found on the surface in such a huge ghost city. Even if it was the star ink milk, a natural treasure that could be continuously gathered, if there were no clues, trying to find it in this vast ghost city would be like looking for a needle in a haystack. Auto Cultivation City was once one of the few important cities of the Spirit Beast clan. Just casually walking around the streets would take at least a few days. If one wanted to search every place carefully, it would take at least a month. However, the time left for Lin Yi and the others was no more than 5 days. According to previous experience, the miasma would return after 10 days. Everyone had to ensure that they could leave before that. Furthermore, they needed at least 5 days to travel from the historical remains to the teleportation array. Therefore, the remaining time left for everyone to search for treasures in the historical remains was at most 5 days. Everyone present was here for the star ink milk. If they did not have any clues unless they were extremely lucky, they would not be able to find it in a mere 5 days. Fortunately, Chang Daoping had the layout map of the historical remains. What was even rarer was that the deacon of the Spirit Beast clan had also marked the exact location of the star ink milk on the layout map. Of course, Chang Daoping would definitely not let everyone see such an important thing. After all, the value of the layout map of the historical remains was much higher than a little bit of the star ink milk. This was something that could be passed down as a family heirloom. The fewer people who knew about it, the better. In the most ideal situation, if Chang Daoping was the only person in the world who had the key information from the lunar shadow array to the layout map of the historical remains, it would mean that from now on, all the star ink milk would belong to him alone. Just thinking about the huge benefits this represented was enough to make anyone excited. Alright, next I'll bring you guys to find the star ink milk. I'll say the ugly words first, pay attention to follow my footsteps. Otherwise, if you accidentally lose track of me and miss the opportunity to obtain the star ink milk, it'll be because you're useless. Don't blame me for not taking care of you. Chang Daoping said indifferently. Understood. Everyone's heart trembled. To be able to grow into a golden core stage expert, they were naturally used to the scheming of the cultivation world. They were very clear about the meaning behind Chang Daoping's words. Chang Daoping would not show them the layout map of the historical remains, nor would he deliberately tell them the route. On the contrary, he would deliberately speed up on the way to the destination. He would even deliberately take a detour to confuse everyone so that they would not have the chance to remember the route. This was in line with his interests. Everyone was well aware of this. Even if they had complaints in their hearts, they did not dare to say anything in the face of Chang Daoping's accumulated power. They could only nod silently. Lin Yi did not have any objections to this. Although Chang Daoping's actions were unbefitting of an expert, with such great benefits in front of them, who could guarantee that they would be carefree and unperturbed? Lin Yi wasn't an unreasonable person. From entering the ruins through the moon shadow matrix to finding the star ink milk, it was all thanks to Chang Daoping. If it wasn't for him, they wouldn't even be able to enter, let alone find the star ink milk. As long as he was able to lead everyone to the star ink milk, it would be considered extremely benevolent. As for the other pardonable little tricks, Lin Yi could understand and did not object. However, if Chang Daoping were to play any other tricks on top of that, then it would be intolerable. If that really happened, then Lin Yi wouldn't be able to blame him for turning his back on him. R1152. Chapter 4279. Let's go. Chang Daoping shouted in a low voice, and then his figure suddenly flashed without warning. In the next moment he had already appeared dozens of feet away. No one dared to be the slightest bit negligent. They hurriedly displayed their movement speed to the extreme and followed the direction in which Chang Daoping's figure flashed. If they were to fall behind at this time, they would really miss the star ink milk and regret it for the rest of their lives. The consequences would be even worse than this because if they were alone, they wouldn't even know how to leave the ruins. They might even be trapped here alive. Lin Yi and Huang Xiaotao looked at each other and also chased with all their strength. Chang Daoping's current speed was actually extremely fast. Compared to when he was moving in the dense forest outside, it was several times faster. Even if it was a flat and empty street, it was very difficult for everyone to keep up with his speed. Among the crowd, except for Luo Tuoxiang and Chao Shishir who were relatively strong, the rest of the people were obviously nervous. Chang Daoping did not make things too difficult for them, but this speed was basically equivalent to the limit of a master in the middle stage of the gold core realm. It was very normal for them to keep up with him. Seeing this scene, Lin Yi could not help but feel a chill in his heart. Chang Daoping did not have much intention to make things difficult for the 5 people he brought. As long as there were no accidents, these 5 people should be able to keep up with him. However, he deliberately maintained this speed. For him and Huang Xiaotao, whose strength was only in the early stage of the gold core realm, the intention of deliberately making things difficult could not be more obvious. If it was another master in the early stage of the gold core realm, not to mention not falling behind, it was estimated that they would be directly lost at the first step. Fortunately, Lin Yi and Huang Xiaotao were both good at movement speed, and they were masters of the gold core realm who had a perfect breakthrough. Their strength was far from that of an ordinary master in the early stage of the gold core realm. In particular, Lin Yi could replenish genuine qi for himself and Huang Xiaotao at any time. Without this worry, the 2 of them could go all out. Even the extreme speed of a master in the middle stage of the gold core realm would not be able to shake them off. When Chang Daoping noticed this, he was truly shocked. Aside from the fact that he had intentionally increased his speed so that everyone would be too tired to remember the route, it was also because he wanted to shake off Lin Yi and Zhen Xiaotian. In any case, at this point Lin Yi and Qin Shi were already completely useless to him. So instead of letting them follow him to share the starry ink milk, it was better to just throw them off halfway and end all troubles once and for all. It would save him a lot of effort. But he didn't expect that these 2 people, who were only at the early stage of the gold core realm, had such a deep foundation of strength. Even so, he couldn't get rid of them. It was simply incredible. As a dignified nascent soul realm master, Chang Daoping's speed was naturally faster than this. If he really wanted to shake off Lin Yi and Zhen Xiaotian, it would not be difficult. But if he was even faster, perhaps before he could shake off Lin Yi and Zhen Xiaotian, the others would already be unable to hold on. Although Xiao Chen had taken precautions and purposely held back when they passed through the lunar shadow array, the fact that these people were chosen by him meant that their relationship was not ordinary. Aside from Chao Shishir, his dual cultivation partner, the others were all subordinates that he had nurtured for many years. Among them, Luo Tuoxiang was even related to him, a distant cousin. Especially at Chang Daoping's level, while his own strength was important, the strength of his subordinates was extremely important as well. If he didn't have a few capable subordinates that he could trust to work for him, then no matter if it was his own status or influence, it would be greatly affected. Therefore, although Chang Daoping didn't want everyone to remember the route, he sincerely wanted to give everyone some starry ink milk so that they could increase their strength as quickly as possible. Anyway, the starry ink milk could be obtained once every year, so he didn't have to worry about not having enough for himself. If he distributed the excess starry ink milk to everyone, not only could it help them increase their strength, it could also win their hearts. It was killing two birds with one stone. However, among the crowd, Lin Yi and Huang Xiaotao were definitely not included. These two were only temporary coolies that he had pulled over to break the array. Now they had completely lost their value. How could he easily give something as precious as the starry ink milk to these unrelated outsiders? In order to prevent his own people from falling behind, Chang Daoping didn't continue to increase his speed. However, killing intent was already surging in his heart. Good things should not flow to outsiders. He couldn't possibly give the starry ink milk to outsiders. Since he couldn't shake them off with speed, there was only one method left. Lin Yi didn't know about the changes in Chang Daoping's heart. He continued to follow closely behind the crowd with Huang Xiaotao and Luo Tuoxiang, seemingly unaware of this. They didn't speak along the way. After an hour, Chang Daoping didn't know how many twists and turns he had led the crowd. Finally, they stopped in front of a hidden and ancient-looking altar. Could this be their destination? Everyone was gasping for breath. After rushing for such a long time, everyone was already exhausted. Those who were slightly weaker even had their true qi reserves almost depleted. On the contrary, although Lin Yi and Huang Xiaotao looked a little out of breath, they were actually still full of energy. Their qi was abundant, far more than the rest of the crowd could compare to. Could it be that he was really thinking too much? Was there really no danger in this place? Lin Yi looked at the altar in front of him with some uncertainty in his heart. Ever since he had discovered the abnormality in the ruins, he had been secretly paying attention. However, Chang Daoping led them on a rampage. After traveling through this ghost town for an hour, they didn't encounter any living creatures at all. The jade pendant also didn't have any warning signs. There really weren't any signs of danger along the way. There was nothing special about this shabby altar in front of them. Although many of the steps were already broken, it was still a piece of cake for everyone to go up. Chang Daoping led the crowd to the altar impatiently. They didn't encounter any obstructions along the way, and there weren't any additional formations protecting them. In addition, this location was so remote and unpopular. It gave everyone the feeling that this altar wasn't an important place in Audwa Cultivation City. On the contrary, the scene in front of them was similar to a small temple by the road. It was completely different from the god's secret treasure trove that everyone had expected. However, on second thought, this made sense. To human cultivators, the star ink milk was a rare treasure that was difficult to buy at an exorbitant price. However, to the spiritual beasts, it was not very useful, so it was normal that they did not value it. Star ink milk. Chang Daoping, who was in the lead, suddenly exclaimed in a low voice. He couldn't hide the excitement in his voice. Everyone quickly looked in the direction of the voice. The first thing that caught their eyes was a statue of a spirit beast that was as tall as a few people in the middle of the altar. Chapter 4280. No one knew what kind of spiritual beast this was, but even though it was just a lifeless statue, it still gave off a mighty and domineering feeling. It was so much so that one would unconsciously feel a strong urge to kneel down and submit to it. It was an indescribable and shocking sight. The king of spirit beasts. He didn't need the ghost to remind himself, the word popped into his head. The king of spirit beasts was born with the power to intimidate all beasts, and other than this one he couldn't think of any other spirit beast that could be this intimidating with just a statue. It was unknown what material the statue was made of. It was pitch black and glowed with a faint light. Furthermore, it did not seem to have been carved before being moved onto the altar. Instead, it seemed as if the stone itself had grown there. It was only later carved into the image of the spirit beast king and used to construct this altar. There was a single horn on the forehead of the king of spirit beasts. A drop of black liquid came out of the tip of the horn and dripped into a small stone pool in front of the statue. That's right, this must be the star ink milk. Legend has it that the star ink milk is black. Everyone was overjoyed and excited. There was no doubt that the black liquid was the star ink milk. At this moment, there was already some in the small stone pool. However, because the color of the star ink milk was too dark, If one didn't squat down to examine it carefully, they wouldn't be able to tell how much there was. There really was the star ink milk. What Chang Daoping said before was actually true. Lin Yi and Huang Xiaotao looked at each other and were both surprised and happy. Because he had been tricked by Chang Daoping before, it was inevitable that he would be on guard against something like this. Until just now, he was still suspicious of Chang Daoping's true intentions. He didn't think that he would actually see the star ink milk with his own eyes. Moreover, there should be quite a lot left. Even if he and Huang Xiaotao were last, there should still be some left if everyone only took a small bottle. This was already the most ideal situation they had imagined. This trip to the Audiobook cultivation city ruins was unexpectedly smooth. As a result, the star ink milk was already within reach. Coupled with the infant ginseng and myriad crossing golden dan fruit, Lin Yi and Huang Xiaotao's harvest from this trip to Lufeng Forest was simply off the charts. At this pace, it was almost as if the three most famous heavenly treasures of Lufeng Forest were all taken up in one go. Alright, let's follow the order we set earlier. I'll go first. Chang Daoping's expression quickly returned to normal. He took out the small spirit jade bottle that he had prepared in advance and walked to the edge of the pool first. He began to fill it with the star ink milk. Even though they were tempted, they still consciously took a few steps back. Since they had discussed this beforehand, unless they were prepared to break the rules, they had to maintain a certain distance when others were retrieving treasures. Otherwise, it would be easy to cause misunderstandings. If they got too close, then once Chang Daoping thought that they had ill intentions, then the situation would go out of control. Lin Yi didn't move either. He just stared at the small rock pool from afar. Although he couldn't see the star ink milk clearly, if Chang Daoping wanted to do something under his nose, such as secretly filling another bottle with the exact same spirit jade bottle, Chang Daoping wouldn't be able to do anything. Even if he was a nascent soul cultivator, he definitely wouldn't be able to escape Lin Yi's perception. Perhaps it was because he was being too careful, but Chang Dao's movements in collecting the star ink milk were slower than he had expected. However, he didn't make any extra movements. After he was done, he directly got up and walked over. He nodded at Chao Shishir. As Chang Daoping's Dao companion, Chao Shishir's position in the group was self-evident. She was the second person to collect the star ink milk. She excitedly took out a small spirit jade bottle of the same model and eagerly walked over. After filling the bottle to the brim, she reluctantly walked back, looking back 3 times with every step. After Chao Shishir finished, it was Luo Tuoxiang's turn. He had already prepared a spirit jade bottle. He impatiently rushed forward and filled the bottle to the brim. After that, it was Hu Yoli, Fan Dongji and Fang Miaojin's turn. They had already prepared the same spirit jade bottle and each took a bottle according to the order. Finally, it was Lin Yi and Huang Xiaotao's turn. However, before they went up, Luo Tuoxiang suddenly spoke. "You two, what bottle are you going to use to fill it? It can't be bigger than ours, right?" Luo Tuoxiang grinned and asked, "Before you take the star ink milk, it's best to take it out for everyone to see. Although you are the last in line according to the rules, you can only take a small bottle each. I don't need to teach you this, right?" "That's right. If there's extra after you take it, Brother Chang will decide the rest. No matter how much there is, you can't just take it all in one go, right?" Chao Shishir nodded in agreement. She was afraid that these 2 annoying country bumpkins would take advantage of her. Lin Yi glanced at Chang Daoping when he heard this. He found that the corner of this person's mouth curled up playfully, but he didn't have any intention of speaking. It was probably a tacit agreement. Everyone's concerns couldn't be said to be unreasonable. Lin Yi and Huang Xiaotao looked at each other and immediately took out 2 small spirit jade bottles. As an alchemist, Lin Yi never lacked such things. Moreover, they were the most common sizes on the market. They were almost exactly the same as the spirit jade bottles that everyone had just used. Chao Shishir and Luo Tuoxiang were completely speechless. Even if they didn't want Lin Yi and Huang Xiaotao to take the star ink milk, before Chang Daoping gave the order, they didn't dare to make their own decisions. What if they overpowered the host and violated Chang Daoping's taboo? With Chang Daoping's usual domineering style, what he hated the most was others making their own decisions. Lin Yi smiled slightly and then no longer paid attention to these 2 people. He walked hand in hand with Huang Xiaotao towards the small stone pond. With their relationship, they naturally didn't need to be wary of each other like the others. Finally being able to obtain the star ink milk, Lin Yi's mood at this moment wasn't as calm as it seemed on the surface. If it was anyone else, they would definitely be excited at this moment. This was human nature. It would be strange if they weren't excited at all. Walking to the side of the small stone pond, Lin Yi and Huang Xiaotao found that the surrounding temperature had suddenly risen by a large margin. It was as if they were being roasted by the hot summer sun. Previously they didn't feel much from afar, but now that they were closer, this strange heat became very obvious. However, this scorching heat seemed to be emitted from the statue, and the aura emitted from the stone pool below was the complete opposite. The aura was cool and slightly icy, just like a rare gust of cool wind blowing against one's face in the hot summer, causing one to unconsciously feel relaxed and refreshed. It really was a good thing. Chapter 4281. Lin Yi sighed in his heart. Just based on this refreshing aura, this thing was absolutely extraordinary. It truly lived up to its name of star ink milk. However, when he and Huang Xiaotao squatted down beside the stone pool and used the spirit jade bottle to scoop up the star ink milk, both of them were stunned at the same time. The star ink milk was black, so it was very difficult to see the bottom of the pool. At first, Lin Yi thought that there was a lot left, but when he put the spirit jade bottle in, he realized that there was only a shallow bottom left. This bottom was already so shallow that it couldn't be any shallower. It was almost only a thin layer, and it was impossible to use the spirit jade bottle to store it. No matter how they thought of a way, they could only get a few drops at most. What's wrong? What the hell are you doing so slowly? Could it be that you two want to secretly do something under our noses? Luo Tuoxiang saw that the two of them were acting strangely and immediately opened his mouth to question them. Humph, you two country bumpkins who haven't seen the world. If you want to do something in front of us, you're still far from it. I can see it with a glance. Chao Shirshir, who was also monitoring their every move, coldly snorted. Do something? Alright, you two do something for me to see. Lin Yi originally couldn't be bothered to pay attention to these two, but at this moment he suddenly realized that he had been made a fool of. His mood could be said to be extremely bad, and he immediately replied coldly. Chang Daoping and the others, each of them filled a full bottle of star ink milk, but only he and Huang Xiaotao couldn't even get the bottom. This was clearly a trap for the two of them to do hard labor for nothing. No matter who it was, they wouldn't be in a good mood at this moment. Lin Yi faintly felt that he might have been made a fool of by Chang Daoping, but from the beginning to the end, he didn't find anything unusual. Everything was going according to plan. Unless he could find clear evidence, otherwise he wouldn't be able to say anything. At this time he could only suffer in silence. What's more, with the opponent's strength at the nascent soul stage, and Luo Tuoxiang and so many people, even if Lin Yi and Huang Xiaotao wanted to fall out with each other, they would have to think twice before acting. Actually, they really can't do anything because when I was filling it just now, the Astralink milk was already empty. Even my bottle wasn't full, so... At this moment, Fang Miaojin suddenly opened her mouth. She was in the queue before Lin Yi and the other two, and she was also the last among the 6 people led by Chang Daoping. It's bottomed out? Chao Shirshir and the others were stunned. They quickly walked over and tested it with their own hands. Only then did his suspicions disappear. Following that, the way they looked at Lin Yi and Huang Xiaotao instantly turned into one of gloating. In their eyes, the Lin Yi duo was nothing more than 2 weak country bumpkins. It was only because they were lucky enough to be chosen by Brother Chang that they had the opportunity to explore the ruins. Did the two of them think that they could stand on equal footing with them and obtain the star ink milk? Humph, a toad lusting after swan meat. Now even the heavens couldn't stand it anymore. The star ink milk was about to be in his hands, but it was all for naught. Serves them right. It seems that the two of you are destined to have no fate with the star ink milk. Wah. The crowd didn't hide the ridicule on their faces as they sneered complacently. This time it wasn't just Lin Yi. Even Huang Xiaotao, who had a gentle temperament, couldn't stand it anymore. Lin Yi couldn't help but secretly clench his fists. The greater the hope, the greater the disappointment. If he hadn't seen the star ink milk before, he might not have felt anything. But now that he had missed the opportunity to obtain the star ink milk, his mood was already extremely bad. He even suspected that Chang Daoping and the others had done something. Now, faced with the ridicule of the crowd, he couldn't help but want to fall out. The crowd saw Lin Yi's gloomy expression, but they didn't care at all. They were just 2 country bumpkins in the early stage of the golden elixir realm. Even if they had 10 more guts, they would absolutely not dare to fall out. If they dared, that was even better. In any case, it wouldn't leave behind any future troubles. They might as well slap them to death here and end it once and for all. I'm really sorry. I didn't expect that it would be gone when it was your turn. At this time, Chang Daoping finally spoke. He didn't take pleasure in their misfortune like the others. Instead, he had a very regretful expression, as if he truly felt sorry for Lin Yi and Huang Xiaotao. Chao Shishir and the others originally wanted to ridicule them for a while longer. Especially Luo Tuoxiang, he even planned to force Lin Yi and Huang Xiaotao into desperation. This way he could justifiably slap them to death. But now that Chang Daoping had personally spoken, they naturally didn't have the right to speak. After all, they didn't know the true thoughts in Chang Daoping's heart. If they spoke carelessly and accidentally disobeyed Brother Chang's intentions, then they would be asking for trouble. Lin Yi took a deep look at Chang Daoping. Seeing that this person's expression was calm, without the slightest sign of deliberate pretense, he couldn't help but be puzzled in his heart. Could it be that his intuition was really wrong? Could it be that this person didn't do anything? Could it be that this was just a pure coincidence? With Lin Yi's wariness, it would be very difficult for an ordinary person to not notice if they wanted to hide something from him or have any ill intentions towards him. Lin Yi had always thought that after successfully passing through the lunar shadow array and entering the ruins, the two of them would no longer be of any use to Chang Daoping. He would probably make a move and not allow the two of them to share the astral ink milk. However, in reality, along the way, Lin Yi didn't feel any killing intent from Chang Daoping. Even the jade pendant didn't give any warning. This completely overturned Lin Yi's guess. Little did they know that Chang Daoping did have killing intent towards them along the way. However, it was only for a moment and he quickly concealed it. Of course, it was impossible for Chang Daoping to let Lin Yi and Lu Fei obtain the astral ink milk. Even if it was just a little bit, it would be a significant loss to him. However, this didn't mean that he had to kill them. As long as he did something in the process, he could perfectly solve this problem just like this coincidence. However, you don't have to be anxious. Look at the speed at which the astral ink milk is dripping. I believe that as long as you wait here for a few days, even if you can't fill a bottle, you will be able to get at least half a bottle. It's much better than getting nothing. Chang Daoping continued to speak indifferently. It sounded like he was really thinking for Lin Yi and Lu Fei. With this, Lin Yi was even more unable to guess this person's intentions. However, Chang Daoping's words weren't wrong. From the beginning until now, Lin Yi had already seen a total of 3 drops of astral ink milk dripping from the tip of the statue. Based on this speed, they would be able to collect at least half a bottle if they waited here for a few days. Brother Chang, I have a question. Since the speed at which the astral ink milk drips isn't slow, why is there so little astral ink milk in this pool? You only managed to fill 6 bottles before you finished it. This doesn't make sense, right? Lin Yi hesitated for a moment before looking at Chang Daoping and asking. Chapter 4282. Because of the miasma, Lufeng Forest was only open to the public once a year. Based on the rate at which the miasma was dropping, there should be more than enough to store a few dozen bottles every year. It was impossible for only 6 bottles to be emptied out like this. Who knows? Maybe someone came here before us? Chang Daoping's lips curled up slightly. That's even more abnormal. Nobody would complain about having too much star ink milk. If someone had come here before us, they would definitely have taken all the star ink milk away. There's no way they would have left so much behind. At most, there would only be drops of star ink milk left after they left. Counting from the time when the miasma dissipated, there would at most be a small bottle left, not 6 whole bottles. Lin Yi shook his head decisively. There was one more thing he didn't say. It was about the star ink milk. From how to enter the Audwa Cultivation City ruins to the specific location of the altar, every process was a secret. Chang Daoping wasn't the only one who would keep it a secret. Everyone else would be the same. Therefore, the number of human cultivators who could actually come here to collect the astral ink milk should be few and far between. The possibility of someone coincidentally arriving before them was actually very low, and even if there was someone, they wouldn't have missed a single trace of it along the way. Then, maybe the rate at which the star ink milk drips isn't this fast all year round? Or maybe someone could ignore the miasma and come to collect the star ink milk at other times like a few months ago? Chang Daoping changed the topic. This time Lin Yi had nothing to say. If he had to say it, the 2 possibilities that Chang Daoping mentioned couldn't be ruled out. After all, no one would stay here all year round. No one knew the dripping pattern of the star ink milk. As for the latter, Lin Yi and Huang Xiaotao had just killed a man in gray. That guy was a nascent soul stage expert and he fell from the sky like a big bat. It seemed that the miasma didn't affect him at all. It wasn't impossible for someone to ignore the threat of the miasma. Also, if the star ink milk is left here for too long, it might evaporate, Chang Daoping added. His expression was still indifferent, but if you looked closely at his eyes, you would find that they were flickering. Maybe? Lin Yi shook his head noncommittally. He had more suspicions in his heart. The more Chang Daoping explained, the more he felt. Actually, this also meant that there was something fishy about this. Otherwise, with the other party's personality, he wouldn't have said so much unless there was a special reason. However, Lin Yi did not continue to ask. Anyway, since things had developed to this point, there was no difference no matter what the situation was. After all, what was done could not be undone. Him missing the opportunity to obtain the astral ink milk this time was already a sure thing. Seeing that Lin Yi had fallen into silence, Chang Daoping's lips curled into a smile. He then asked, "How is it?" No matter who it was. After going through so much trouble to come here, only to return empty-handed, they would definitely be unwilling. This was human nature. Do the two of you want to do as I said and guard this place for a few days? But if that's the case, we'll have to go first. I can't wait for you here. Leave first? Lin Yi immediately frowned when he heard this. Chang Daoping and the others would leave first and leave him and Huang Xiaotao here? Only a fool would stay here. Ordinary people might really have such an impulse if they couldn't resist the temptation of the astral ink milk, but Lin Yi would not be so bewitched. If Chang Daoping left with the others, he and Huang Xiaotao might not even be able to get out. Moreover, this relic was obviously a little strange. Even if they hadn't encountered any danger so far, who could guarantee that it would be so peaceful later on? Forget it, let's leave with Brother Chang. We don't dare to stay here alone. Lin Yi and Huang Xiaotao looked at each other and shook their heads. All right. Chang Daoping nodded his head indifferently. In his heart he had a higher opinion of Lin Yi. There weren't many people in this world who could resist the temptation of the astral ink milk. It was a pity that Lin Yi wasn't one of them. Otherwise he wouldn't have to resort to underhanded tricks to cheat him of his share of the astral ink milk. As for Chao Shishir, Luo Tuoxiang and the others, they were all gloating. They were forced to travel with these two weak country bumpkins. Even when they were breaking the lunar shadow array, their intelligence was suppressed. They had always thought highly of themselves, so there was no need to mention how uncomfortable they felt in their hearts. But now, their hearts were instantly balanced, and they were filled with a sense of superiority. Chang Daoping immediately led everyone down the altar. Lin Yi and Huang Xiaotao could only follow helplessly. But before they left, Lin Yi had a thought and stored the little bit of astral ink milk in the small stone pool into the spirit jade bottle in the space of the jade pendant. It was better than nothing. There was only a little bit of the astral ink milk, but no matter how little it was still the astral ink milk. It was better than nothing. Why is there a fluctuation of qi? Chang Daoping, who was in front, suddenly stopped in his tracks. He turned around and asked with a frown. Everyone looked at each other, and their gazes were full of suspicion. Finally they all looked at Lin Yi and Huang Xiaotao. Lin Yi was shocked when he saw this. He could not help but secretly complain in his heart. It was just as he had expected. When using the space of the jade pendant to collect external objects, there would inevitably be a fluctuation of qi. It was just that it was very weak and ordinary people would not be able to detect it. But for a nascent soul stage expert like Chang Daoping, and at such a close distance he could still detect some clues. He had indeed taken a bit of a risk just now. I'm sorry, Brother Chang. I was a little angry just now and I couldn't control my emotions. Lin Yi's expression suddenly became a little flustered, but he had to pretend to be calm. The content of this sentence matched seamlessly and no one would be suspicious. Couldn't control your emotions? Then hurry up and do it, kid. I was really afraid that you would fly into a rage out of humiliation and do something unconventional. Ah. Luo Tuoxiang laughed unscrupulously when he heard what was said. The other people, including Chao Shishir, also revealed looks of ridicule. A mere early golden core stage cultivator dared to be dissatisfied? He really didn't know how to write the word death. Only Huang Xiaotao, who was watching this scene, had a strange expression under her veil. With her close relationship with Lin Yi, even if Lin Yi did not tell her about the space of the jade pendant, he did not deliberately avoid it before, so she could more or less guess some of it. These people were all kept in the dark by Lin Yi, but they were still so self-righteous. It really made people speechless. Chapter 4283. Lin Yi, put yourself in my shoes and think about it. I can understand your feelings right now. You've come all this way for nothing. If it was anyone else, they wouldn't be happy about it. However, this is something that we've discussed beforehand and you've also agreed to it, right? Chang Daoping didn't turn hostile just like that, but his expression was a little dark. Brother Chang is right. My cultivation is not good enough and I cannot control my emotions. I have made a fool of myself. Linny nodded. Well, there is nothing we can do now. However, even if we only obtained a few drops of star ink milk, it will be useful for your cultivation. Don't be too discouraged. Chang Daoping's expression softened. With that, Chang Daoping did not pursue the matter any further. He turned around and continued to lead the group forward. From the beginning to the end, Lin Yi did not sense any killing intent from him. It seemed that this person really had no intention of silencing them. This made Lin Yi secretly heave a sigh of relief. Otherwise, if they really fought, he and Huang Xiaotao would definitely be in for a tough fight. Whether they could escape unscathed was a problem. Unless it was absolutely necessary, even if he knew that the other party had so much star ink milk, Lin Yi did not intend to have a direct conflict with him. After all, the risk was too great. Furthermore, he had to rely on this person to leave. After leaving the altar, Chang Daoping suddenly increased his speed to prevent the others from remembering the route. No one had time to react. But after an hour, Lin Yi realized that something wasn't right. Chang Daoping's actions made it hard for people to accurately remember the route back and forth. Even Lin Yi couldn't do it. Chang Daoping's actions made it hard for people to accurately remember the route. Even Lin Yi couldn't do it. However, this did not mean that the others were like fools who did not notice anything. At least one thing was certain. The place that Chang Daoping was leading them to was not the entrance that they had entered from. Instead, it was a completely foreign land. Not only Lin Yi but the others also noticed something strange. Logically speaking, they would naturally leave from where they had entered. Everyone was even mentally prepared to break the lunar shadow array again. However, they did not expect that this would not be the case at all. Elder brother Chang, are we not going to use the lunar shadow formation? Luo Tuoxiang was the first to lose his cool and ask. Of course not. We do not understand the rules of the lunar shadow formation. We can only break it from the outside and enter. However, the broken lunar shadow formation will recover very quickly. I don't know how to break it, but we can use another more convenient passage, the teleportation array. Chang Daoping continued to lead the way and answered without turning his head. Teleportation array? Is there a teleportation formation here that connects to the outside world? Everyone, including Lin Yi and Huang Xiaotao, were startled when they heard this. They could not help but look at each other and ask, since there is a transportation formation, why did we go through the trouble of passing through the lunar shadow formation? Since there was such a convenient thing like the teleportation array, he could directly teleport in. There was no need for Chang Daoping to specially rope in Lin Yi and Xiaoqin for the sake of breaking the lunar shadow array. Was elder brother Chang's brain muddled for a moment? Through the teleportation formation you can come and go as you please. Do you really think there's such a good thing? Then why did I specially bring you here? Chang Daoping turned to look at everyone and explained, the other end of the teleportation formation I mentioned is directly near the teleportation formation at the exit of Lufeng Forest. In other words, through it, you can reach the teleportation formation at the exit of Lufeng Forest. Then it will be very convenient to reach Xinduan City. However, it is a one-way teleportation formation. You can only go out and not enter. Why is that? Everyone was confused and still could not understand. Since there is such a convenient thing like the teleportation formation, why didn't you set it up as a two-way teleportation formation? It shouldn't be that difficult, right? That shouldn't be difficult, but have you forgotten the relationship between the spirit beasts and us humans? Chang Daoping pursed his lips disapprovingly. Although there hasn't been any war between humans and beasts in recent years, the two races have never been harmonious since ancient times. At most, they are isolated from each other and never interact with each other. They even have to be on guard against another war. Under such circumstances, do you think it is realistic to set up a two-way teleportation formation in a major city like Audwa Cultivation City? That's true. Only then did everyone react. If a war really broke out, human powerhouses could directly sneak in through the teleportation formation. The lunar shadow array that was painstakingly set up outside would simply be a decoration. The existence of this teleportation formation is only to make it convenient for the spirit beasts to go out. Whether it is for trade or other matters, it will be much more convenient. However, if one wants to enter Audwa Cultivation City, there is only one way, and that is to enter through the lunar shadow array. Chang Daoping explained to everyone. I see. Everyone came to a realization. Then they did not say anything else and silently followed behind Chang Daoping. 2 hours later, Chang Daoping finally brought everyone to a stop. In front of them was a majestic building that looked like a small palace. If Chang Daoping hadn't said it before, no one would have thought that there was actually a teleportation array set up inside. Brother Chang, are we leaving now? Luo Tuoxiang suddenly asked when he saw that Chang Daoping was about to lead the way in. Why? Is there anything else? Chang Daoping stopped in his tracks and turned to ask. That. It is rare for us to come to the ruins and we still have plenty of time. Why don't we continue to walk around here? Luo Tuoxiang suggested hesitantly. That's right, Brother Chang. Looking at the time, there should be a few more days before the miasma descends again. Since we can directly leave with the teleportation formation, why don't we continue to walk around here? If we are lucky, we might even be able to find some treasures. Chao Shishir, who was at the side, echoed. Although the most famous treasure in the ruins of Audwa Cultivation City was the Star Ink Milk, it was still an important city for the spirit beast, so there were many other treasures. Since they were already here, no one would be willing to leave so easily. Since they still had plenty of time and didn't have to pay any extra price, it would be a waste not to search. The others also nodded in agreement. As for Lin Yi and Huang Xiaotao, they did not express any opinion. This time they were here for the Star Ink Milk. As for the other treasures, looking for them without any clues was like looking for a needle in a haystack. They did not want to get lucky. Furthermore, Lin Yi felt that there was something strange about this ruin. Even if they did not encounter any danger, it did not mean that there was no danger. It was better to be more cautious. Chapter 4284. Since you have this thought, I won't stop you. I can let you stay here for a few more days. However, before that, you have to confirm the teleportation formation first, right? If the information is wrong and there's no teleportation formation here, then we won't have any time to waste, Chang Daoping said plainly. Yes, Brother Chang has thought it through. Hearing that, everyone nodded their heads in agreement. If there was no teleportation formation here, then they had to reserve time to leave. They couldn't stay here any longer. Under Chang Daoping's lead, everyone strode into the small palace before them. It was extremely spacious inside, which was not much different from what they had expected. Any teleportation formation was an extremely complicated and exquisite formation. This meant that it was bound to be very conspicuous. As expected, after everyone entered the small palace, they saw the teleportation formation at the center. There really is a teleportation formation. We can rest assured now. When Chao Shishir and the others saw this, they were instantly relieved. All of them rubbed their fists and were eager to go out and search for treasures. However, when their gazes fell on Chang Daoping, they couldn't help but be stunned because Chang Daoping's expression had become unprecedentedly serious. Not only Chang Daoping, but even Lin Yi's eyelids twitched when he saw the scene before him. Earlier, he always felt that there was something strange about the town of death, and now it was true. Everyone still didn't understand. They followed Chang Daoping's gaze and looked over. In the end, their gazes fell on the two sides of the teleportation formation. Corresponding to each other, there was a green-robed figure sitting upright. Earlier in the town of death, including the strange spirit beast on the altar, they had seen many statues. Therefore, they didn't pay special attention to these two figures at first glance. They thought they were just two statues. However, when they looked again, everyone almost peed their pants. How were these two statues? They clearly faintly emitted the aura of living people. They were actually living people. Ah! Chao Shishir instantly screamed in fear. She ran behind Chang Daoping with a pale face. Huang Xiaotao was slightly nervous as well. She subconsciously held onto Lin Yi's hand tightly. Originally, the two figures in green robes who were sitting upright seemed to be resting with their eyes closed. They only faintly exuded the aura of a living person. However, after Chao Shishir's scream, the aura of the two suddenly skyrocketed, and the aura of a late-stage nascent soul cultivator was instantly revealed in front of everyone. Such a ferocious aura that caused one's heart to palpitate was even stronger than Chang Daoping, who was by their side. Everyone's faces instantly turned pale. If it was just one person, it would still be fine. But the problem now was that they were two late nascent soul stage experts. You are. This time, even Chang Daoping, who always had the demeanor of an expert, was shocked. They were so shocked that they started to stammer. When Lin Yi saw this scene, he couldn't help but be a little surprised. He thought that Chang Daoping should at least have known about it long ago. After all, he had received insider information from the Spirit Beast clan's deacon, and he had made ample preparations for everything. Who would have thought that he would be at a loss just like everyone else? You've come to sightsee in the Spirit Beast scenic area. Now that he was going to leave, wasn't he going to leave something behind? Not only did he not give you tickets, but he also plundered souvenirs. It doesn't seem right to just leave like this, right? The two figures in green robes sneered and stood up. It was only at this time that everyone could finally see the appearance of these two people. It couldn't be said that their faces were ferocious, but they always gave people an abnormal feeling of evil. When they glanced at them, it was as if they were being stared at by two extremely dangerous ferocious beasts. The two people's scalp was numb and they shuddered. This wasn't like the temperament of a human expert. However, for some reason when Linny heard these two voices, he didn't feel as horrified as others. Instead, he felt a little familiar as if he had heard it somewhere, but he couldn't remember the specific situation for a while. In addition, what made Linny more concerned was the words that the two people just said. Are you? Chang Daoping also heard the implication of the words, and he was even more panicked. Yes, of course we are the spirit beasts. The two men in green robes laughed at the same time. Their eyes were full of mockery as they looked at everyone. It seemed that they didn't put anyone in their eyes, including Chang Daoping, a master of the nascent soul stage. Hearing this sentence, Chang Daoping's heart completely sank to the bottom. This trip to the ruins, he had made such thorough preparations and the journey was really smooth. He didn't expect that when he was about to leave, he would encounter such two strong people. To be more precise, they were two powerful spirit beasts in human form. It was true that Chang Daoping himself was a master of the nascent soul stage, but it was enough to judge from the momentum of being suppressed in all aspects that the strength of the two in front of him was obviously stronger than him. Although they were all masters of the nascent soul stage, even if they were of the same level, the spirit beasts were born with powerful racial talents. This was an ability that human cultivators could never reach. Coupled with the difference in physique, they were naturally weaker. What's more, the other party was fighting 2 against 1 in an absolutely dominant situation. In front of the powerful spirit beasts of the nascent soul stage, Chang Daoping couldn't even be regarded as cannon fodder except for himself. If they really fought, they could be wiped out with one hand. No matter how many people there were, it wouldn't be enough for them to kill. Moreover, no one was a fool. In this situation, even if Chang Daoping asked them to go up, they wouldn't dare to go up. Hurry up, are you leaving or not? If you don't want to go, then go back and continue playing. Leave after you've played enough. Don't waste our time. One of the men in green robes scolded impatiently. Ah? Chang Daoping was stunned. The others looked at each other even more. Go back and continue playing? What did that mean? If they were to understand the meaning of the words, it seemed that these two great masters of the Spirit Beast clan didn't have any intention of taking their lives. It even seemed like they could continue to search for treasures in the ruins of Audwa Cultivation City. It seemed like they wouldn't interfere. But how was this possible? No matter how broad-minded they weren't stupid. Even if they thought with their toes, they would know that there was no such good thing in the world. There must be some ulterior motive behind this. Then, dare I ask the two of you, how can we go over? Chang Daoping had no choice but to cup his hands and ask. Chapter 4285. People under the eaves had no choice but to lower their heads. Comparing their strengths, if they really fought, the one who would suffer would definitely be himself. The only thing Chang Daoping could hope for now was that the two in front of him wouldn't be too greedy. He would endure the pain of paying a small price and hopefully survive this calamity. Are you deaf? Or is there something wrong with your brain? I told you to stay behind, didn't you hear me? The other person curled his lips and scolded. I heard you, but what do you want me to leave behind? Please speak clearly. Chang Daoping's cheeks twitched, and he could only continue to ask in a low voice. Being able to spend money to avoid this calamity was already good enough. If the other party jumped out and said that they wanted him to stay behind, then it would bode ill for him today. Leave behind the Star Ink milk and all the valuables on you. The green-clothed man impatiently waved his hand. He turned to the other green-clothed man and said, Hee old friend, it's still the same old rules. Each person will choose 3 and compete to see who has the most spoils of war. If I win, then your clan will be responsible for serving tea and food to my clan for the next few days, haha. How can I lose to you? What a big joke. My eyes have always been very accurate. Even 10 of you are not my opponent. The other person in blue suddenly laughed, then stretched out his hand and pointed at Chang Daoping, Chao Shishir, and Luo Tuoxiang. You and you, the 3 of you belong to me. Damn old friend, you're not very particular. Just choose the one with the higher strength. The person in blue suddenly became anxious, but there was nothing he could do. He could only point at Hu Yoli, Fan Dongji and Fang Miaojin and comfort himself. Don't be too proud. High strength doesn't necessarily mean good luck. Some of these little fellows are not very strong, but they have hidden good things on them. As the two people in blue spoke, they didn't know whether it was intentional or not, but they excluded Lin Yi and Huang Xiaotao at the same time. This caused the two of them to be somewhat puzzled. Could it be that these two people saw that they didn't have the star ink milk on them? Moreover, they were looking at their strength. They were at the bottom of everyone else, so they didn't care about them? Also, who were these two people? The more Lin Yi listened to their conversation, the more he felt they sounded familiar. There was at least a 60% chance that he had met these two before. However, looking at their faces, he couldn't recall where he had met them. While Lin Yi was secretly puzzled, Chang Daoping's group of 6 was really depressed. They had finally obtained the astral ink milk that they had yearned for day and night, but they hadn't even had the chance to be happy about it. In the end, he was targeted by these two people who came out of nowhere. What the hell was going on? The star ink milk and all the valuables? Isn't this a little unfair? After all, Chang Daoping was a nascent soul stage master. Although he was afraid of these two people, he didn't dare to say anything. We took the star ink milk from this place. We have nothing to say about keeping it, but the other things belong to us. Aren't you guys just robbing us? Open robbery? Why don't you know how to speak properly? I already said it's a toll. Do you think that our AO Duo Cultivation City, a famous scenic area of the spirit beast race, can be played for free? One of the people in green laughed strangely. Scenic area? Chang Daoping's group looked at each other. They were so depressed that they wanted to vomit blood. This broken place was so lifeless. Apart from these two robbers in front of them, there wasn't a single living thing. If it wasn't for the star ink milk, who would come to this place to find trouble? And a famous scenic area at that? Exactly. Where else have you seen a transportation array that you can use without paying a price? No matter what, there should be a toll, right? The other person in green added with a strange laugh. The corner of Chang Daoping's mouth twitched. He was speechless for a long time. All the valuables on his body were taken away. That was called a toll? Robbery was robbery. How could they make it sound so dignified? Had all the spirit beasts become so cunning? What? If you really don't want to hand it over, that's fine. Scram back and continue playing. Don't dawdle here. The expressions of the two people in green began to show signs of impatience. Chao Shishir, Luo Tuoxiang, and the others all looked at Chang Daoping. Whether they stayed or left, they couldn't make the decision. They could only listen to Chang Daoping. But no matter what, not only did they have to hand over the star ink milk, but they also had to hand over all the valuables on their bodies. Anyone would be depressed to death. Since everyone was unhappy, Chang Daoping was naturally unhappy as well. He immediately turned and left. Since the other party had said this, he could at least be sure that they wouldn't easily make a move. This was the only good news at the moment. Chao Shishir and the others stared blankly for a moment before following Chang Daoping towards the exit. Their hearts were filled with apprehension. According to what the two green-robed men had said, if they continued to wander around the ruins, they shouldn't interfere. But the problem was that it was useless. Even if they found many treasures in the ruins, they wouldn't be able to bring them out. This was because if they wanted to leave, all the treasures on them would be taken away by the two people in green. Not a single one would be left. This was a waste of time. Moreover, the more they obtained, the more painful it would be. It was impossible for Chang Daoping to not think of such an obvious problem. Lin Yi suddenly thought of something. Could it be that this guy wanted to leave through another way? Oh, that's right. I forgot to remind you. At this moment, the person in green suddenly spoke. Everyone was shocked. They thought that the other party was going to change his mind again. They all turned to look at the two people in green with apprehension. If you want to leave this place, there is only one way. That is to use this transportation array. Aside from this, all the other exits have been sealed. The lunar shadow array is the same. Right now, you can only enter and not leave. The person in green had a face full of ridicule. He laughed strangely and said, "Let's not talk about the fact that you can't find the location of the lunar shadow array. Even if you can find it, you must have the bloodline of a spirit beast to leave. Do you have it?" When the person in green said this, Chang Daoping's face fell. It was just as Lin Yi had guessed. He really wanted to leave through the lunar shadow array. Even if he didn't know how to break the array, he had studied the lunar shadow array for a while. It wasn't impossible for him to find a clue. Although it would be more troublesome than using the transportation array, he wouldn't have to be plundered like this. Furthermore, there was still plenty of time. In the end, the person in green casually said a sentence and shattered his beautiful fantasy. Chapter 4286. If you don't believe me, then go ahead and try. If you can get out of here, then that means you have the ability and we will not stop you. The man in green snickered. This time Chang Daoping was completely at a loss of what to do. Judging from the other party's fearless attitude, Chang Daoping could tell that it was not a lie. Furthermore, when the spirit beast deacon spoke to him, he had indeed specifically instructed him to leave through the teleportation array. However, Fang had never mentioned that there would be people blocking the road and robbing them when they were leaving. If their strength was average, then it wouldn't be a big deal. However, these were two original infant spiritual beasts in human form. There was no need to even think about it. There was no way he could beat them. Chang Daoping was furious, but he didn't dare to turn hostile in the end. He had no choice but to throw his backpack out. At the same time he took out the star ink milk in his arms. A treasure like the star ink milk was not something that anyone would willingly hand over. But what else could he do? Would he really die here? To be able to reach this level, Chang Daoping wasn't someone who would give up his life for wealth. After thinking it through, he decided that since he wasn't their opponent, there was no need to struggle. Not only would it be futile, but it would also be a waste of his life. The azure-clothed man was not surprised by this at all. He had seen many human experts. Usually they were all strong and overbearing, but when it came to this critical moment, they were more tactful than anyone else and cherished their lives more than anyone else. One of them took Chang Daoping's backpack and casually looked through it. After estimating its value, he casually tossed it to the side. However, when he picked up the small spirit jade bottle containing the star ink milk, he suddenly exclaimed in surprise. "Ehe, you're quite an interesting person. In order to trick your subordinates, you use such a small trick." To use such a small trick, tsk. The azure-robed man sneered. Then, as if to let everyone see it clearly, he took out a box made of spirit jade, but it was much larger than everyone's spirit jade bottle. Everyone was baffled, but when they saw with their own eyes that the azure-clothed man poured all the star ink milk into the box, their expressions instantly became incomparably strange. When they looked at Chang Daoping again, their gazes were clearly a little more complicated and difficult to understand. In terms of volume, the spirit jade box that the azure-clothed man took out was at least 10 times larger than Chang Daoping's small spirit jade bottle. However, the situation in front of him was that the star ink milk that poured out from the small spirit jade bottle actually filled the spirit jade box that was 10 times larger. If they hadn't seen it with their own eyes, no one would have believed it. Everyone couldn't believe their eyes. How was this possible? If the people present were all ordinary people, it would be fine if they were fooled and deceived like this. However, they were all dignified gold core stage experts, yet they were deceived as if they were fools. Moreover, they did not have the slightest suspicion in the process. This was a bit unreasonable. He could only say, although it was just a small trick, Chang Daoping's little trick could be said to be flawless. At first glance, there doesn't seem to be anything special. It's just a small spirit jade bottle that can be bought anywhere. I didn't expect it to have such an exquisite structure. If I'm not wrong, there are at least a few arrays on it. There should be a lot of camouflage and a small universe technique. That's why it can hold so much star ink milk and deceive people at the same time. Tsk, a lot of capital was spent. The azure-clothed man showed a look of disdain as he deliberately explained the hidden trick to everyone. As his voice fell, Chang Daoping's face couldn't help but feel hot. It didn't matter if this trick wasn't exposed, but now it was exposed in front of so many subordinates. This was a bit embarrassing. As expected, the rest of the people looked at Chang Daoping with a gaze that was no longer as respectful and convinced as before. Before this, the reason why Chang Daoping was able to gain everyone's trust, aside from his strength and status, as well as his strong and overbearing personality, was that he shared blessings and misfortunes with everyone. Just like in this trip to the ruins, it was clearly Chang Daoping who took all the credit. Everyone only put in a bit of effort when breaking the lunar shadow array. When taking the star ink milk, even if Chang Daoping asked to take half, no one would have any objections. However, he took the initiative like everyone else and only took a small bottle first. This was very rare. People's hearts were made of flesh. Chang Daoping was so magnanimous and fair that everyone felt that he was reliable when following him. Only then would they be willing to give up their lives for him. However, no one would have thought that Chang Daoping's magnanimous performance was actually just a sanctimonious act. Right under their eyes, he was actually doing such a shameful little trick. For a moment, the image that Chang Daoping had created in everyone's hearts for a long time collapsed with the overturning of the spirit jade bottle in the azure-clothed man's hand. Compared to everyone else at this moment, Lin Yi and Huang Xiaotao looked at Chang Daoping with a gaze that was truly filled with hatred. Chao Shishir and Luo Tuoxiang were only deceived by Chang Daoping. At the very least, they each received a small bottle of star ink milk and did not suffer any substantial losses. Only Lin Yi and Huang Xiaotao were the true victims. It was no wonder that when Chang Daoping was the first to take the star ink milk, Lin Yi felt that this person's movements were a bit too slow. Logically speaking, if he was only filling a small bottle of star ink milk, he would not need such a long time. Lin Yi thought that Chang Daoping's emotions were surging. After all, this was the world's rare star ink milk. When filling it, it could not be like filling water. He had to be careful, so he did not think too much about it. Now that he thought about it, why did the star ink milk just happen to be gone when it was his and Huang Xiaotao's turn? This was clearly part of Chang Daoping's plan. After such a long time, Chang Daoping should have already calculated the amount of star ink milk he had. After giving each of his subordinates a small bottle, the rest of the star ink milk was all poured into his bottle. So when it was Lin Yi and Huang Xiaotao's turn, there was naturally nothing left. This was indeed not a coincidence. From the beginning to the end, it was Chang Daoping who had dug a pit and made Lin Yi and Huang Xiaotao jump into it. In the end, they were tricked by him, but they could not find the reason and even said that he was a kind person. Chapter 4287. How could the others be a match for Lin Yi and Huang Xiaotao after secretly making a core fire true chi super bomb and blowing him up? At this moment, would the others really be willing to risk their lives for him? They were already doing him a favor by not attacking him. This was unbearable. Since he knew that he had been tricked with Lin Yi's personality, how could he just swallow this humiliation? Even with Chang Daoping's shrewdness, his face couldn't help but turn purple under everyone's gazes. He lowered his head and didn't dare to look at everyone's expressions. However, the azure-clothed man didn't let him go so easily. After watching the show for a while, he suddenly shouted, "Where's the Spirit Jade card? Hurry up and take it out." "What? You want the Spirit Jade card?" Chang Daoping couldn't be bothered to be ashamed and was immediately surprised. The azure-clothed man glanced at him and said, "Nonsense, you seem to be quite good at deceiving people. How come your brain isn't working well now? I already said to hand over all the valuable things on you. Could it be that your Spirit Jade card is not valuable?" The azure-clothed man glanced at him and said. Chang Daoping was speechless for a long time. After hesitating for a moment, he finally took out the Spirit Jade card and thought to himself, in any case, the Spirit Jade card has a verification array. Apart from my own true chi, even if someone else took it, they wouldn't be able to use it, let alone take away a piece of Spirit Jade. Since this Spirit Jade card is lost, I'll just go back and find some connections to get a new one. However, before Chang Daoping had time to rejoice, the azure-clothed man's next action caused his eyelids to jump. His originally unsightly expression was now as brilliant as eating shit. Be more self-aware and quickly swipe it. Not a single piece of Spirit Jade is missing, or else I don't need to say what will happen to you. The azure-clothed man was holding a miniature card magic tool in his hand. Fuck. Chang Daoping had a stomach full of profanity, but he didn't dare to curse out loud. This Spirit Jade card contained almost all of his savings. That was practically all of his savings. Not only did he not get anything from this trip to the Audwa Cultivation City ruins, he even ended up going bankrupt. He was simply fucking unlucky. Although Chang Daoping was angry, he did not let it get to his head. No matter how many spiritual jades he had, it could not be compared to his life. He could only obediently do as he was told. Furthermore, the other party had been staring at his spiritual jade card. Even if he wanted to, he couldn't miss even a single piece. He had to make sure that all of them were clean. The astral ink milk, the treasures on Chang Daoping's body, and the Spirit Jade card were all taken clean. The azure-clothed man was still not at ease. He personally searched Chang Daoping's body before finally letting him go and moving on to the next target. Chang Daoping moved to the side with a dejected face. Even he didn't dare to play tricks in front of the man in green, let alone Chao Shishir and Luo Tuoxiang. The man in green was a late-stage nascent soul master of the Spirit Beast clan. This group of golden core stage cultivators could be arrogant outside, but in front of the other party, they were no different from ants. A moment later, Chang Daoping's group of 6 was captured by the 2 azure-clothed men. There were 3 of them each, and each of them had taken everything from their bodies. Not a single thing was left. At this time they went to search their pockets. That was really cleaner than their faces, Come, 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 old friend. Come and compete with me to see whose things are more valuable. Ah. I bet you'll lose for sure this time. The azure-clothed man no longer paid attention to everyone. He immediately piled up the things he had plundered and began to compare them. Chang Daoping's group of 6 stood to the side in a sorry state. They didn't know whether to leave or not. For a moment they didn't know what to do. Chang Daoping held it in for a long time and finally couldn't help but carefully ask, "That you too, can we? Oh, you guys can scram?" The azure-clothed man kept his word and didn't continue to make things difficult for them. He pointed at the teleportation array and signaled them to go up. Okay, thank you. Chang Daoping's group immediately let out a sigh of relief. They were afraid that the other party would go back on his word and attack them. If they really fought, they would probably all die here today. The 6 of them didn't care about anything else and hurriedly went up to the teleportation array. Even if they knew that there was indeed star ink milk, they absolutely wouldn't dare to come back to the Ao Duo Cultivation City ruins even if they were beaten to death. Not only did they not obtain any treasures, but they were also completely exploited. No matter who it was, they wouldn't dare to come here. Lin Yi and Huang Xiaotao looked at each other and hurriedly followed. Since the teleportation array was the only way out, they naturally had to leave with everyone else. On this trip to the ruins, they were cheated by Chang Daoping and didn't obtain any star ink milk. However, because of this, they weren't exploited by the 2 azure-clothed men. This could be considered a blessing in misfortune. Everyone turned to look at Lin Yi and Luo Tuoxiang with complicated expressions, especially Chao Shishir and Luo Tuoxiang. Their hearts were especially unbalanced. Everyone was completely exploited by the azure-clothed man, but only these 2 escaped. What was this? However, even though they felt unbalanced, they didn't dare to mutter. After all, they didn't know the temperament of these 2 spiritual beast experts. If they were the most annoying kind, wouldn't they just be asking for trouble? Perhaps they wouldn't be able to cheat Lin Yi and Luo Tuoxiang, but would instead be throwing themselves into trouble. That wouldn't be worth it. However, just as everyone stepped onto the teleportation array and was about to be teleported away, the azure-clothed man suddenly spoke again. "You two, wait a moment." The azure-clothed man specifically pointed at Lin Yi and Huang Xiaotao. Hearing this, Lin Yi was startled. He thought that the azure-clothed man didn't care about their insignificant strength and didn't care about what they wanted. He didn't think that he would stop them in the end. Looking at each other, Lin Yi and Huang Xiaotao had no choice but to stop their footsteps. At this moment, Chang Daoping and the others who had already stepped onto the teleportation array couldn't hide their gloating faces. This time, their hearts were finally balanced. "Humph, let's go first," Chang Daoping sneered. At this moment, he didn't have any intention of caring about the life and death of Lin Yi and Huang Xiaotao. The others were the same. They couldn't wait to see Lin Yi and Huang Xiaotao suffer. They were robbed, so they wanted to see others be robbed even more ruthlessly. Only then could they find their psychological balance. At this moment, the teleportation array had been activated. Before Lin Yi and Huang Xiaotao could react, the figures of Chang Daoping and the others had already disappeared into the teleportation array with gloating sneers. "They're gone?" Huang Xiaotao turned to look at Lin Yi. She couldn't help but feel a little guilty. He clearly looked like a dignified and reliable person before, but in the blink of an eye, he became like this. She really couldn't accept that a person's heart could be so unpredictable. Most importantly, after Chang Daoping and the others left, only she and Lin Yi were left to face 2 eccentric late-stage nascent soul spirit beasts. No matter how she thought about it, this kind of thing made her feel uneasy. Chapter 4288. "You two, the 2 of you didn't obtain the star ink milk, so..." Lin Yi wasn't too nervous. As he spoke to the 2 men in green, he secretly tightened his grip on Huang Xiaotao's hand. "You don't have it? That's fine. If we give you ours, won't you have it?" The 2 men in green looked at each other playfully. "Huh?" Lin Yi was stunned. He stared blankly at the 2 men in green and almost thought that there was something wrong with his ears. After looking at each other with Huang Xiaotao, he was finally sure that he hadn't heard wrongly. However, he was even more confused. Giving their star ink milk to the 2 of them? How could there be such an inexplicable good thing in this world? Did the other party have nothing better to do and wanted to make fun of the 2 of them? However, before Lin Yi could react, the 2 men in green seemed to be serious. They actually placed all the star ink milk they had snatched from Chang Daoping's group in front of Lin Yi and Huang Xiaotao. That wasn't all. Not only the star ink milk, but the various treasures they had plundered from Chang Daoping's group were also thrown over. Seeing this scene, even with Lin Yi's temperament, he couldn't remain calm like Huang Xiaotao. How did things suddenly turn out like this? What was going on? How is it, old friend? I've completely won this time, haven't I? Aha, if you're willing to bet, you must be willing to lose. Next, your clan will have to serve us tea and water. Don't go back on your words. The man in green didn't even look at Lin Yi's expression. He turned to look at his companion and proudly boasted. If you hadn't snatched away the 3 strongest ones right from the start, would I have lost to you? It's all that hypocrite leader's fault. Motherfucker, he still used such a dirty little trick. That big bottle of Star Ink milk of his is much more than everyone else's combined. What a fucking scam. Another black-clothed man said indignantly. The bickering between the two made Lin Yi and Huang Xiaotao, who were already confused by what was going on. He was even more confused. What exactly was going on? You two, are you really going to give us all of this? Lin Yi asked with a strange expression. He didn't believe that there was such a good thing as a pie falling from the sky. These 2 late-stage nascent soul cultivators of the Spirit Beast clan stole things from Chang Daoping and the others, but in the end they gave them all to them. What kind of joke was this? It would make sense if the ghost had appeared and used its aura as an elder of the Spirit Beast clan to suppress the 2 of them. But in a place like this, the ghost would not show itself at all. Furthermore, the opponents were all super beings at the late nascent soul stage. With the deterrent force of a mere nascent divinity, the ghost might not be able to suppress them. Of course, these are all yours. If you don't have enough, there's more. As one of the cyan-robed men spoke, the other cyan-robed man waved his hand, sending a stream of primary energy to open a nearby cabinet. The unique fragrance of the Star Ink milk instantly assaulted his nostrils. When Lin Yi and Huang Xiaotao saw the scene before them, they were instantly dumbfounded. The cabinet was densely packed with spirit jade bottles and spirit jade boxes. And from the looks of it, they were all filled to the brim with Star Ink milk. Any small bottle of Star Ink milk would be a priceless treasure that could not be bought on the market. But how could this be a small bottle? There were hundreds of bottles here. For a moment, Lin Yi even vaguely felt that the Star Ink milk was not that rare anymore. Hee. How is it? There's quite a lot here, right? The cyan-robed man chuckled and said, these are all here. You can take as much as you want. This time Lin Yi and Huang Xiaotao were even more confused. Today's matter was really too strange. They didn't think that these 2 cyan-robed men would be so kind as to give them such a big gift for no reason. What was wrong with them? From the way they treated Chang Daoping's group of 6 earlier, it could be seen that although these 2 powerful beings of the Spirit Beast clan were not violent, they were definitely not good people. It would be more appropriate to say that they were eccentric, but why did they treat the 2 of them with special respect? As the old saying goes, those who are unaccountably solicitous are hiding evil intentions. At this time Lin Yi and Huang Xiaotao didn't feel overjoyed at all. Instead they felt a chill in their hearts. Even though Lin Yi had always been resolute and decisive, he didn't know whether to advance or retreat this time. If the other party directly shouted to kill, then no matter how strong the other party was, Lin Yi wouldn't need to hesitate at all. He could fight with all his strength. But now not only did the other party not attack, but they even gave him a big gift. This matter was so strange that it made people's hearts tremble. Lin Yi couldn't turn the tables and attack first, could he? If it weren't for the fact that the 2 in front of him were too strong, being at the late nascent soul stage, and Lin Yi didn't know if the ghost could handle it. At this time he even wanted to ask the ghost to come out and suppress the situation. I don't deserve a reward without doing anything. Dare I ask, what is the meaning of this? Please tell me clearly. In the end Lin Yi could only bite the bullet and ask. In his heart he was secretly prepared to fall out with these 2 spiritual beasts. Hearing this, the 2 cyan-robed men suddenly laughed. They looked at each other and suddenly bowed deeply to Lin Yi at the same time. Seeing this, Lin Yi couldn't help but be shocked. Huang Xiaotao, who was next to him, was even more stunned. What was this situation? Even if they had eccentric temperaments, they shouldn't be this eccentric, right? Hee benefactor, how have you been? I finally have the chance to thank you. The 2 cyan-robed men said in unison with great tacit understanding. Benefactor? Lin Yi was even more confused. He had only been on the Heavenly Island for a little more than a year. If he had seen these 2 during this time with his memory, it was impossible that he couldn't remember them. Moreover, with the powerful strength of the late nascent soul stage, even if something happened, Lin Yi definitely wouldn't be able to help them. How could they say that they were benefactors? However, the next moment, the 2 cyan-robed men didn't continue to explain. In front of Lin Yi and Huang Xiaotao, they directly transformed into their original beast forms. They were actually a fire lion and a big spider. Linny was stunned for a moment. Then he immediately recognized the two in front of him. Weren't these the two chiefs of the Fire Lion clan and the Spider clan that he met in the Wulonghout mountain range in the secular world? No wonder their voices sounded familiar. It turned out that they were really old friends. However, both of them had transformed into human forms, and the key point was that their strength was not the same as before. Without a hint, Linny wouldn't have thought of this at all. You're tuning in to the Han Li's Wuxia Chronicles YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.